we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight we kick off a brand new week, a shortened week for me, as I will be leaving on Thursday for our good times in San Francisco for UFOCon 2023. And if you want to join me, go to UFOCon2023.com. But I got a couple of shows to do this week. By the way, Thursday and Friday we'll be filling in. Jessica Jones will be filling in. And then on Monday next week, Marquise Williams will fill in for me as well. But tonight, it is Sasquatch night down in Texas. Big Texas here. And yeah, from Texas Front Porch on YouTube, we are going to get into the big master of the monsters with him tonight. Let's say hello to everybody in the chat room tonight. We have Race Fan in the gold medal position, Penny Van in the silver, Robert Lamoth taking home the bronze medal tonight. And who else do we have here? Let us go to our chat room, shall we? We have Dirty Filth hanging out in fourth, Roy Boy, Sensational Sherry, Lisa C, Logan L, Jay Burke. Good to have you all here. Hi, Human Carl. Thank you for your service in the United States Air Force. We love our veterans around here. It is always a safe place for you to come hang on out. Danielle Diva, Lisa C, Penny Van again. The Michael Leger has arrived. Raymond L, how you doing? Brown Dwarf, what's going on? Brown Dwarf will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Hi, Nancy Hayes and D. Cohen. Sugar Britches, nice to see you. Donna, how are you? Monica, nice to see you. And let's continue on. Bigfoot Rob is here. Bigfoot Rob is going to be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Hi, Jenny. How are you? Hope you had a good weekend. Let's continue on. Susie B, how are you? Mama Susan, nice to see you. Emmy Tong, welcome to SOR Chat. Hi, Paramarv. Good to see you as we continue on with our roll call here. And up next, we have W. David Page and Jessica Kurt M, Millennium, Chris 716. Good to have you guys here. Mac Geek, good to have you back. Thank you for joining us. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Let's continue on. Robert Lamoth, how are you doing, man? Stephen Edmond, nice to have you back. And Foxy's friends, welcome to SOR Chat. Richard Elmore, good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call here tonight. Penman. I don't know why I do that, but I do every time I say Penman. There we go. Now I'm ready. Gansfeld, Lisa or Linda Bennett, how are you guys? Beelzebrad, good to have you back. Hi, Simon in Australia. Good to see you. As we continue on here, who else we got? Hey, Zach, what's happening? Derek Galloway, nice to see you, my man. And who else do we have here? Noble Patrick, good to see you. And Sparkles over on Facebook, nice to have you here. Gemini Moon, it's been a while. Good to see you again. Sundance Kid, welcome to SOR Chat. As we continue on with our roll call. Digger Dog, can't wait to see you in Vegas, my man. Nancy Thames, good to see you. Eternal, how are you? And let's see here. Rui from Portugal. Rui is here. One of these days, I am going to put up that map. Been lazy. Now we're going to open up the chat room in Spreaker, so we'll see Bill WD40 jump on in there and lube us up for tonight's show. Just pay attention. He's going to sneak on in. All right, let's continue on. And who else do we have? Kathy from SoCal. Welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for joining us for your first time. All right. Who else we have? Love V Love. Asteroid. What's happening? We are caught up. The super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Also, if you're coming to Vegas, you got to get those emails in to Kat at info@spacedoutradio.com, info@spacedoutradio.com, and confirm your tickets for VIP or regular for May 19th through 21st at the Golden Nugget. Brian Cheshire, how you doing? Bob Davis, Jeff Steve Garvey, he'll hit a home run for you. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, Talk Stream Live at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. A great show of cryptids tonight. Big Tex from Texas is going to talk about some serious Sasquatch talk. Then in hour number 3, Tim Senor's got the UFO report. This on the 26th anniversary of the Phoenix Lights. And Dirty Filth is here for some cartoons. Swamp Dweller will be in a little bit later as well. Let's get right to it. If you haven't heard Big Tex on this show in his deep, dulcet tones, yeah, you are missing out. This man is a beautiful storyteller and the host of the YouTube channel Texas Front Porch. That's where it's a little different than most. He brings in a bunch of like-minded people to talk about the narrative of the cryptids, the stories behind them, the beliefs that go along with them, and the encounters that happen on a daily basis. Yes, Tex does a great job with his team, bringing the stories all together to try and find out what this large creature or creatures running around the forests and wilderness of North America is all about. Let's bring him in right now. Big Tex, it is always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. Your beard is looking fantastic. Great combination with the cowboy hat tonight. How you doing, my man?
Man, if I was any better, it wouldn't be legal, brother. Man, I really appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure. You know, we talk. You know, we stay in touch, and there's been a lot of stuff happening in here recently since I've been going out in the field, so we got a lot to talk about.
Well, you know what? I'm very glad that we have a lot to talk about, my man, because, you know, the one thing that is going on in the cryptid world is there are more and more people coming together with their sightings. Mm-hmm. There are more people who are feeling more brave than ever to say, hey, maybe I'm not stupid. Maybe I actually did see what I thought I saw. Maybe I didn't imagine that big hairy beast that was not a bear chasing my car on 2 feet a few months ago. Or whatever it may be. I mean, Tex, before we get too deep into it, we always have new listeners coming on in and listening in and hearing all of our guests for the first time. You know, for you, how did you get into this? What made you decide you wanted to be a monster hunter?
Well, I kind of tripped into it, actually. Of course, I had my first experience when I was 16. And unfortunately, and I'll say this all the time, I wish it had been a Bigfoot. But it wasn't. It was a dadgum dog, man. And so I went for years and years and years, never really talked about it. And then about 2016, I stumbled across. I remembered I was at work on YouTube, and just poking around, and I found out that other people had seen this critter, and so I reached out to somebody, and she had me on her show, and that's the first time that I had the experience of going, okay, I'm not crazy, you know, and that led me down a path, and I ended up being a co-host on the BDRP and getting into the research side of things. And then I had my sightings there, when I went out in the field, and it just kind of snowballed on me. And I felt like I needed to give somebody or give everybody that was having these experiences a safe platform, because a lot of times you can't even talk to family about this stuff. And God knows you can't go to a therapist about it. So even if, and we don't pretend to be therapists or nothing, but if we can give you an ear to bend, or, maybe help you with what we've seen, and get your mind wrapped around it. And, that's what we offer, so that's kind of where it all started.
For you, what do you want people to know about these creatures? Whether it's Dogman, whether it's Bigfoot, or any other cryptid that is on there, because for a lot of people out there, there's still stigma
Mhm.
attached to this topic. How real is this for you, and what do you want people to know?
I think the first thing that needs to be, that people need to realize, is if you've went to a state park, or if you went to a national park, or almost anywhere really, with you've probably walked right by these things. And I hear this all the time about, I've been hunting all my life, I've been out indoors, I've never seen one. Well, were you looking for it? Because these things are masters of their environment, I think. And there's a lot of different opinions. Dave, even me and you have different opinions. And but on my side of things, I think what I've been dealing with, as far as, I think there's several different phenomenon that we're dealing with out there. But the physical creatures is what I'm talking about right now. The physical creatures, they need to be treated with the same respect any apex predator out there does. And you've got to respect your apex predators, because if you don't, they will literally bite you in the butt. And I think that's the number one thing out there. I want people to respect these critters, and learn that they're not necessarily these big scary monsters out there. They're monstrous, but they're not monsters. Does that make any sense?
Well, I think it does. And, you know, you made an interesting comment there. You've talked to hunters who've come up to you and said, I've been hunting 20, 30, 40 years in these backwoods and never seen a thing. I don't believe it's there. I don't believe it exists. I would have found it with the amount of time I have spent out in the forest. I got buddies like that in my town too. And, they laugh at me. They think it's a joke that
Mhm.
I go around spending my weekends looking for a mythical monster. Yet, for those of us who have had those encounters or that sighting,
Mhm.
I mean, it is life altering. How did everything change your life after you got involved and started having these encounters?
You know, and I have to go back to my first encounter. That opened my eyes to other that there's things out there that we do not understand. And ha- when I got into it, and I started doing the boots on the ground stuff, and I had more sightings, I had more encounters. And not only with these physical creatures, these other phenomena that are out there, you begin to you have to be open minded, because you're dealing with so much more that you I think it changes your perception of reality. In a way, it shatters your reality. Because I know a lot of people talk about when and if we have disclosure. I think we will have disclosure. We can talk about that later. But um, that it's going to shatter people's reality. But those of us that has had in these encounters have already had our reality shattered. And finding out, we can't, and I'll steal a line from my good buddy Jason. We can't say what they are because we don't know what they aren't. So
I think that's a great line. I mean, that's the big thing. And this is where, it tests my patience with the cryptid world, because look, there are a lot of people, and I believe I will put you in this category, who believe we're dealing with flesh and blood creatures here.
right.
There are people who believe that we are dealing with something a little bit more spiritual. We have people who believe that they are forest people and clans of humanoids that have evolved in the forest. We have people who believe they're shapeshifters and or interdimensional type creatures and have some sort of superpower, as weird as that may sound. There are a lot of eclectic thoughts regarding this creature. And the one thing that I love to hate about this field are the amount of people that are actually convinced on what it is. And instead of investigating the entire phenomena, trying to figure it out, just like what Jason said, we don't even know what they are not.
Right.
We're already convinced it's Gigantopithecus or a North American great ape or monkey or some crap like that. I mean, how does that harm investigation comparatively to what you do? You're someone who, even though you have your thoughts of what it is, you're still open-minded enough to kind of say, hey, my own thoughts may not be right.
Yeah, and it makes it more challenging, because what we need to be able to do is sit down, like I was saying earlier today, me and you have different thoughts and beliefs on these things, right? And because we talked about that off air. But the thing about it is, the difference is, and that's what we try to hammer home on our channel, is it doesn't matter if we need to be open-minded enough to sit down and have a conversation, not a debate, not an argument, a conversation with each other, in hopes that we will unlock more. Because if you go into this with your head in the box, you're never going to get out of that box. And there are so many things I think one of the problems is we've crammed so many different phenomenon into the Bigfoot box that it's like untangling a plate of spaghetti. Okay. It's just damn near impossible. And if we can work together, and I know I might sound hippie-ish and everything, and that's fine. I don't care. I don't mind being called an old hippie. I've been called worse. But if we can sit down with each other from different aspects, but the problem is, it's like you said, so many people have made up their mind, this is what they are. And I think part of the reason that people have done that is that's what they're comfortable with these things being. Because if some people would be more comfortable going out in the woods and thinking it's a physical creature and that's all I have to deal with, I can punch it in the nose if I want. Some people, have the belief that they're interdimensional, that they're spiritual, that they're this, that they're that, or they have these awesome powers, and that they're good and everything. I think that's part of the problem, is what you're comfortable with is what you're going to believe. And believing and knowing are two different things. So whenever you're confronted with whatever this phenomenon or these entities or these critters are, I call them critters. I've gotten so beat up about what do you call them? I just call them critters, because you know what? We're all critters. Everything out there is a critter. So the intelligence that these things show leads me to believe that they're not as intelligent as far as technical stuff and everything as far as we go, but they are masters of their environment. We're school-age children out there. It's like swimming with sharks. You do not have the advantage. You go out there, you are no longer on the top of the food chain, but not just because of these critters, because of a lot of other things that are out there too. So the closed-mindedness is what really hurts our research. I think that's the simplest way to put it.
It does hurt. It absolutely does hurt. And that's something that we battle on every field within this community. For you though, how have you over the years changed the way you look for things? The way you are entering the forest, the way you are trying to find your own patterns within your own research area.
It's when I first started going out
Oh,
with me, it was just
let me interrupt you right there
go
because
right ahead.
we should explain where you are investigating. We know you're in Texas because of the name Big Tex,
Right.
but explain your research area, where it is, and then get into that if you don't mind.
No problem. The area that I research is actually in Oklahoma. It is, for those of you that don't know, the Red River borders Oklahoma and Texas. That is the line. Okay. Um, where I do my research is called Brown Springs, Oklahoma. It, it's got a very, how can I say this? Um, ominous and colored history. It is always been known for Sasquatch activity and even dogman activity, but it's also got a huge paranormal aspect to it. There's so much dark energy out there that you deal with the spiritual, you deal with, just about everything you can put a name on. But that area is such it I have no I'll put it this way. I've never been out there or taken anybody out there that something didn't happen. So it's a very 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 active area on all fronts. So
Never mind the tigers.
yeah, yeah. And then you have the possibility of the tigers. So, that's
Okay, so for our audience, Big Tex filled in last week for Super Duke on the Cryptid Report. And if you didn't hear it, Tex was going in on his area where he had a couple of, were they tribal police officers come up to you?
Mhm.
Come up
And sheriff's deputies.
and sheriff's deputies come up to him and say, "Hey man, when you're in this area, watch out for tigers."
Yep.
Like real tigers, like Siberian type tigers.
Yep.
You got to
Yeah.
explain that again.
Okay. So a lot of people will know who I'm talking about. It's Joe Exotic. He had a place in Oklahoma about 40 miles from where I research. And there's a I want to backtrack real quick. There's a guy named DDoS, and Brown Springs went kind of fell off the map for a long time. Now Robert Dotson, the late great Robert Dotson, did some investigations out there, and man, he brought some great stuff out of that place. Oh, good grief! And then it pretty much fell off the map. There was a couple of the Bigfoot Outlaws did some investigations out there, and they swore they'd never go out there without a whole horde of people. During the day, much like they would never go back at night because they deemed it one of the most scariest places they'd ever been. And so he didn't know any of this, and he starts investigating out there. He starts pulling. Thank you, Mike. He starts pulling out some very very interesting stuff, and that's who I got. I got wrapped up with, and first rattle out of the box, we went out there, and I had my first sighting. And so anyway, fast forward a few years, I was up there by myself. I got to where I went out there by myself. I'd spend days and nights at a time, and I was going up to. There's a cemetery out there. It used to be a burial indigenous people burial ground, and then it's got a whole dark history, and that's almost a whole nother show in itself. But so I'm going up there. It's I don't know, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, something like that. I'm going up there, and this is before I heard anything. I didn't even know who Joe Exotic was, never heard his name or anything. So I'm walking up there, and I've got this on audio on the channel. You hear me go, I'm walking up the trail. It's on top of a hill, about 100 yards up, something like that, 200 yards, I don't know. But anyway, I'm walking up, and I say, well, I just heard a growl over here on my left, and it kind of had a purr to it. So I walk on up the trail, and I'm thinking, this is cool. I'm getting activity. I get up to the top of the entrance of the cemetery, and I've got the little bitty pin light with me. All I had was a little bitty pin light, a pocket knife, and a cell phone with no service at the time. So I'm just shining my light around, and I kind of look back over my left shoulder, and I see these big old eyes. They're about big around as a silver dollar. They had 8 to 10 inches apart between them, the high spread. And I'm like, oh, and I'm going through my head trying to eliminate this thing, because you're trying to rule things out what it could be now, I'll call it natural, like normal animals. And I couldn't think of anything aside from a horse or a cow that had that kind of eye spread that would be 2.5 feet off the ground if they were laying down, maybe. But normally they're higher than that. So anyway, I'm watching this thing, and it starts playing peekaboo behind a tree with me. Well, then it started, I can just see the shadow of it. It starts turning its head. I can't really make it out. And then it stands up. Well, when it hit about 4.5 feet, I decided it was time to back out. And I said, a colorful metaphor, and I turned around and walked back down the trail. And fast forward years later, I'm taking some friends of mine up there that are a paranormal group. They wanted to go up the cemetery. They'd already been up there once. That know all the activity that was there. It's a mother-daughter team. I said, y'all do not need to go up there by yourself anymore. So we scheduled it. I was taking them up there. Me and a good buddy of mine, Bob Van Buren with Van Buren Varieties. He was with me, and Amy and Laney were in there, and then their husband, Amy's husband, was in another truck. We pulled up. We parked at Bob's cemetery. Next thing we know, we're surrounded by 5 cop cars. I mean, we stopped, and it was like, woof. I'm like, holy crap, what's going on? So we get out of the car, the trucks and everything. I ended up talking to these fellas for about 45 minutes. And it was 2 tribal officers and 3 sheriff's deputies. They proceed to tell me, well, they found, what are y'all doing up here? I get this big old grin on my face. And the guy, one of the tribal officers, looked at, y'all ain't up here Bigfoot hunting, are you? And I said, well, yes, sir, we are. I said, we're actually the Bigfoot guys, and those are the paranormal group. I was going to take them up to the cemetery. And they proceeded to tell me about 2 of their officers that had Bigfoot sightings in the area, which was very, very unusual. They're very open about it. And one of the officer I was talking to said he had a paranormal experience in the cemetery back when he was younger. I'm like, okay, this is great. He goes, are y'all armed? And well, he had already asked if we're not armed. And he goes, well, we encourage you to carry a sidearm. You can't carry a long gun unless you have a hunting license. But we encourage you to carry a sidearm. Like, okay. We've had reports of tigers in the area.
Tigers.
That's what I said. I said, tigers. You mean mountain lions? He said, no, sir. Tigers. What had happened was Joe Exotic had his outfit about 40 miles away. He got in trouble. He got closed down. He went to jail, blah, blah. Somebody else took it over. They moved it within a mile or 2 of the research area. Okay. They got shut down, and there were 17, what I was told, 17 cats, big cats that were unaccounted for.
And on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because tigers, Sasquatch, and Dogman, oh my. This is Big Tex here tonight on Spaced Out Radio, as we are looking into the forests of southern Oklahoma, northern Texas, for the monsters that are among us. Holy cow. Can you imagine going into the forest? You expect a bear, you expect maybe a deer, and there's a big old tiger hanging on out. Spaced Out Radio returns right after this. All right, we're clear. Okay. Goddamn tigers. Mr. Cowley. Dun, dun, dun. Welcome back to the show. Dun-dun. Oh, Mr. Cowley. Dun, dun, dun. Loves his spaced out radio.
That reminds me, I'm rewriting a song for you. You're going to love it when I'm done.
I hope you do. I hope you do.
I ran this by the crew the other day, and they absolutely loved it. I can't tell you what it is. I got to finish rewriting it. I'm going to record it and send it to you.
I hope so. I hope so. I look forward to it.
Oh man. Yeah,
You know what, Dave?
Just
Yeah, it's dirty. Dirty. You scared the hell out of me there.
You could use that.
Give me a heart attack.
Not on air. I'll try not to. You could use that as your theme song when you go for the roll when maybe Lendatel Omni Volador when he goes and scraps the Navajo warrior.
Oh, El Omni is gonna get absolutely steamrolled by him. Jose Maguina, how are you? And Mennonite Abe, nice to have you here. Yeah, that's gonna be one hell of a match.
I love watching Filth work, man. He the whole show you're going, what is this going to be?
Thanks, Tex.
He doesn't even know.
Yeah, pretty much. Just kind of oozes out of the ether into my brain, and then I try to translate it onto the paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, what do you call it? When the spirits talk to you and you write stuff, what is that?
Scribing?
Yeah.
Automatic writing?
Automatic writing, yeah.
Maybe I just get possessed by some sort of cartoon monster of spirit of some sort.
I should tell you what happened this weekend. So my son, his hockey team was terrible this year. Just freaking terrible. And they go into playoffs. And the third game that they're playing, I think they're getting smoked 5-1 at this point.
Ooh.
One of the opponents comes in. They were a little bit of a dirty team, right? And so one of the opponents trips up my boy, and my boy falls and hits his head on the ice.
Oh.
Okay, so helmet on, he goes to the bench, and he complains to his coaches that his head is sore. I go meet him in the dressing room. My son, he's got 3 of the 6 symptoms of a mild concussion. Okay, so we sit around and we watch the game, and I got him, and I'm monitoring him because I've had concussions before, and they're not fun. Okay, and anyways, long story short, so my son, right near the end, he gets right down near the glass, and the kid is almost crying. I've never seen this out of my boy before. Okay, and I said, he comes back up, and he's got this real somber face on. I'm like, "What's the matter, buddy?" And he's like, "Dad, I want to be out there with my team. That's my team out there, and I want to be out there helping them." And I just thought, that's the first time in 4 years of hockey I've heard him say that. And I was just like, wow, like that was powerful. So then last night, he's asking, going to play hockey or whatever. He comes up to me. He's walking down the hallway. He's like wiggling. He's like, "Hey, Dad, look, I got a new loose tooth, man." I'm like, "Cool." Like 10 minutes later, he yanked the sucker out, and you know what? It happened so fast at night. The only thing I had in my wallet was a $20 bill. I had to pay $20 for a tooth. I had to. I wasn't prepared. Usually I get some change or, I had to pay $20 for a tooth last night, man.
Adjusted for inflation.
No kidding. That's just inflation right there, people. You want to talk about just inflation up here in Canada? All right. That is thank you, Trudeau, for costing me $20 on a freaking tooth from the Tooth Fairy. And I'm sure you're going to charge carbon tax on that too. Anyways, Thank you tonight to W. Decker, Sugar Birches, and Monica for the amazing super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on a nightly basis, as you know. And if you haven't replied to our Vegas emails yet, please do. We need to get our VIP tickets in for April 1st and get a count on, get the shirts made. So let us know. Here it comes, the second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. Big Tex from Texas looking for Sasquatch, Dogman, anything that goes cryptid in the night. And we are talking about this story where in Oklahoma, if you did just picking us up and you didn't hear right before the break, one of his areas where he goes looking for Sasquatch, Dogman, and other things paranormal actually has tigers roaming around the forest. Yeah, Joe Exotic, remember him? Yeah, his tigers. How did the tigers get out there, Tex?
You know what? Honestly, I have no idea. From what I understand, when they shut it down, they cut a bunch of stuff loose, and that's how it happened. Jason is convinced, Jason McLean, which is a co-host on my show, and he's got his own show on there. Jason McLean Questions Everything. God, he gets into everything. But he is convinced that was a tiger and not a Sasquatch that I saw. For years, I was convinced that I had, had another encounter with a Sasquatch up there, or possibly a dogman. I really didn't know. Because I had no idea about the possibility of tigers being out there. But I got to tell you, you put the whole growl with a purr thing to it, and then you put the eye shine together. It's kind of hard to debate what his opinion is. But yeah, from what I understand, it happened when they shut them down. I guess right before they shut them down, they cut a bunch of stuff loose. I don't know. So
all I'm gonna say is, man, I am never going into your forest.
Oh yeah, you are.
No bloody way. No bloody way. When we're talking tigers, dude. Okay. We're talking tigers. We're not talking, something that actually, maybe wants to communicate with you. We're actually talking about something that wants to eat you, kill you. Okay. Just because you looked at it wrong. This is a cat, man. A house cat hates you just for the sake of it. Okay. It hates you just for the sake of it that you looked at it and said hello. Now we're talking 10-foot tigers on their back legs, maybe taller, that are looking, their heads, like between you and me, we've probably got a 20-inch melon. Okay. If we were to go side by side, we're talking double that. Yep. Okay. If you hear the panic in my voice, man, that's because this is real.
Yeah. And that's what I was talking about. This area, it has, this is just an added thing that we have to watch out for. We do have bears in the area. Of course, I mentioned the huge hog issue that we have, and it's almost to the fact that, to the point to where when you do have a Bigfoot encounter out there, it's almost a relaxing event, because it's not it's not a big cat that you're running across.
Okay, how many people are you going out with when you go out there?
Well, now it just varies. But back then I was going out by myself.
Yeah, dumb. Absolutely dumb. I'm just going to call it right there, boss. I love you, but I'm just going to call it right there.
Well, I think it was it last year, year before last. We were having a big powwow team meeting and everything, and unbeknownst to me, it turned into a intervention for Tex. Um, the team grounded me from going out by myself. So, and I knew it was coming, from a place of love and concern from. So, and I couldn't lay that on their hearts, me going out, something happening to me, and then leave them to deal with it. I just couldn't do it. So I made them the promise that I wouldn't go out by myself anymore. And then, of course, when my wife found out about it, she's like, I don't want you going out by yourself. So, and I don't think she understood over the course of those few years I was going out by myself that I was going out by myself. But you got to remember, Dave, I've been doing this. That's what I was from a young age, I was going out in the woods by myself, but
Hey, I have no problem with that. No problem with that whatsoever. All I'm saying is there's tigers out there.
I know. And you know what? I worry less about that than I do the human critters that go out there.
Truth. True. I can see that. All right. Enough about the tigers here, but let's get to the reality of it. This is an area that you mentioned has a lot of paranormal supernatural activity, and it also is an area where Dogman and Sasquatch have been spotted. Have there been any other strange cryptids spotted in the area?
We have, I don't know if you can call them cryptids. That's the problem. Because I don't know where, because there's been reported skinwalkers in the area, witches in the area. I mean, that's what those policemen were looking for that night, was a coven of witches that were sacrificing chickens, and they were making sure we weren't, in cahoots with them. But we've several of us have witnessed dark, shadowy entities around camp. We've ran into, I can't remember what they're called, but these things, they were feline looking, but they were in trees and they were out of the trees. They were on four legs. They were up on two legs. They weren't really huge, but every time you would hit them with a spotlight, they would disappear, turn the light off, and they'd be right back where they were. So, what can you, where do you draw the line at cryptid and paranormal? And I think that varies on who you talk to. If Bigfoot has all these otherworldly abilities, are they really a cryptid? Or are they something what we would call paranormal? So, we've ran into several different entities. There was a picture that D. Doss had taken, and he sent it to me, and he said, "Hey, here's what your favorite area looks like." It was the entrance to the cemetery down on the road. He said, "Here's what your favorite area looks like." It was all grown up. It was spring, early summer, something like that. And I looked at the picture and I said, "Well, what about that big boy standing back there in the trees?" Next thing I text I get was "holy bleep," and we went out and we took comparison photos. We tried to recreate it. We couldn't. So we took measurements, and whatever this dark figure was standing back in the trees was at least 12 feet tall, if not 14. And you fast forward a few years, and we're up in me and my team's up there. We're coming out of the cemetery, and one of our trackers was kind of looking around because we had we heard something. There was something circling us, the group, and Gary Spike Sr. I don't know if he's in here. If he's probably in bed, but he's one of our trackers, and he had gotten the hackles went up on his neck and everything, and to the point where he drew his pistol because he felt like there was a big cat around. This was after the whole tiger thing. So he drew his pistol and he was, playing tail end. Charlie backing up the group up as we went down the trail. Gary Spikes Jr. went over, and he's another one of our trackers, and was looking at a like a sandy mound over on the side of the trail, and he found a series of 12 to 14 inch hooven prints that were in a bipedal pattern.
Hooven prints, like the devil's feet.
Yep. And we've talked to several people, mediums, people that know the history of the place. And it's been rumored that there is a huge this is the way it described to us. There was a huge dark entity either guarding or controlling that place up there, the cemetery.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, and then, we come back with this picture, we come back with these footprints, you just kind of start putting that math together, and it's scary. So we've ran into quite a bit. Now, whether you want to call them cryptids or not, I don't know. One of the latest trips out there, you were talking a while ago about, what do you do? What would you do if, one of these tigers showed up and everything? One of the latest trips out there, we were in camp. It was about 1:30 in the morning, and I had my cot and my tent all the way over in the corner of my tent, my air mattress, because I was pretty far off the ground. I was, and I started hearing what I thought was one of the guys getting out, walking around, going to take relieve himself or whatever. And I'm like, why are you going to do that right beside my tent? Go do it beside yours, because it woke me up, him walking on the gravel. And then the footsteps stopped, and right by my head, which is right next to the wall of the tent, I get,
oh my.
And I'm going through my head. I'm thinking, okay, what could this be? Could be a pig, could be a bear, could be this, could be that. It could be a tiger. It could be a critter. My next thought was, crap, my pistol's in my truck. So, like any good researcher, what do? I roll over, I grab my phone, I hit record, I go back to sleep. So, and over the course of the next 2 hours in that recording, you can hear wood knocks all around us at different distances. So the place does not disappoint.
When you have something that unknown, that close to your tent, what goes through your mind? I know for me, it would be absolute fear. I would be panting in fear, trying to catch my breath. How about for you?
Like I said, it was literally, I was going through my head trying to figure out what it could possibly be. And then the next thing I thought I had was my pistols in my truck. What do? I said, well, if I'm going to go down, at least I want a recording of it. So I just rolled over and hit record on my phone and went back to sleep. But that's one of the tamer encounters that I've had out there. So these things have gotten so close. They've ran through camp up beside my truck. They came within, 10 feet of me when I'm out there by myself. And it's just, they've ran deer out in, me and Dee and Barry were out there one time. We were walking into a research area, and this small deer comes running out of the trees and almost ran directly into us and stopped about 3 feet from us. We scared it. It was running from something. It turned around, darted back into the trees, and we heard a little scuffle, and then it was done. Then nothing. So
it chose the wrong way.
Yeah. So it's things like that, you just, and I got to tell you, I'm at peace with these critters being out there and me being around them for the simple reason that I've been around them so much that if they'd have wanted me dead, they had plenty of opportunity to do it. I'm convinced they're not going to do it. It's like, it's one of those bad, having a bad hair day, and I'll do something to piss him off. You know? But and I think that does happen, and I think it varies from clan to clan, if you want to call them that, and area to area. I think it's the way they're raised up, no different than different tribes of people were raised up. Some of them were, you could walk up into a village and you could trade with them. You could sit down and have dinner with them. You walk, a mile down the river to the next tribe and you are dinner. So I think it varies, just no different than humans do, because I think they have that intelligent level.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I mean, what, for people who've never experienced being that close to a cryptid, how do you know that they are around? What are you looking for? What are you smelling, seeing, sensing?
Unfortunately, I used to have a pretty good sniffer. I lost that in 2019, 2020. You can guess why. It's been what, 3 years? I still haven't got my sense of smell back. So I've lost that tool. But when I go out, I'll look for sign. I'll look for down trees with no other explanation. But you really have to. I'm one of the biggest skeptics on tree structures and stuff like that. They really, really have to be amazing for me to go, okay, well, I really have to debunk everything else out before I can say, okay, well, this obviously was made by something other than natural causes or man. So I do look for that. I'll look for you don't look for sounds. It's the lack of them with me, because normally when these critters are around, it will go quiet. We were in camp one night and the frogs and crickets were just going to town. They were singing, and there was a group of us sitting around the fire, and this wave of silence. It was like a wave at a stadium, people jumping up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it just started going around the camp. It started over here on the left-hand side, around behind us, and it just moved all the way around camp. It would get, there noise, and it would get dead quiet, and it would pick up after. And it was like a crowd wave going around the camp. It was one of the strangest things I'd ever experienced out there. And it gave me goosebumps just sitting there talking about it. But that's the kind of thing that we listen for. We also listen for vocalizations. With any luck, we'll find a track down on the river, or a track way down on the river. We've found that on several occasions. We'll get into the handprints later, but also with me, and I don't know what to call it. I've always called it a gut feeling. I've had it all my life. I've never attributed it to anything supernatural or a special ability or anything. It's just a gut feeling. I've always told everybody, I said, just listen to your gut. Don't ever ignore it. And it served me well through the years. Well, it seems like I have fine-tuned that for some reason or somehow. I don't know. But I started noticing when I was going out there by myself that I would get a certain feeling, and I would run into what I refer to as the physical creatures. And then sometimes I would go out there and I'd get a whole different feeling, and I would be dealing with the paranormal side of things. And then sometimes I would go out there and it would just be nothing. It would just be a quiet.
What kind of paranormal experiences were you having up there?
Well, like I said, we were seeing entities. We had laughing. on both sides of the camp, off in the woods. We would see these dark, shadowy entities walk up. I watched one walk up out of the darkness into the firelight and melt right back into the darkness. And it was a muddy area. There was absolutely no prints afterwards. And you have people dreaming stuff that and it could be the area you're in. It could be, it just triggers a dream. I don't know, but it was relayed to me. It was more of a vision / dream of 3 entities that looked like they were made out of lava walking up out of the field. And then I experienced something the same time, and so did somebody else. And our camera glitched. We had several cameras set up on a trail going from camp right down to the river, and there were almost 1,000 images taken by all these different cameras, and every one of them was black. We have the battery going dead, and equipment is constantly happening to us. And we found out that it's not just us. It's happening to people that they're not even looking for this kind of stuff. They're out hunting, and their game cameras the batteries are dying. They got to come out and replace them every week. So it's that type of thing. Equipment malfunctions. We've recently added some new tools. We started carrying a Geiger counter with us, and we're getting the first time we used it, we got a reading around. We was up in the cemetery, and we got a radiation spike at a certain grave in almost like a 2 or 3 foot area, but nowhere else. And that was at night. During the day, we went back, and it was not present. So, it's just, I've picked up EVPs. There's audio that I've got where I was making a trip up to I'm down at the bottom cemetery, getting my gear together at my truck. I'm not even up there yet. And for the first 5 minutes, almost of the start of the video, you can hear something growling at me. I didn't hear this until I played the audio back after I got back home. But this thing is constantly growling at me. And then in that same trip, I think it's about 12 or 13 minutes into the video. I'm walking up the trail, and you hear a female voice go, "Come on."
Oh, no. We don't like that. We don't like that.
So there is what is that word you use? A plethora of things that go on.
Plethora of weirdness, man. Plethora of weirdness right there. It reminds me of last year. My buddy Mikey is in the chat room tonight on YouTube, as we got about a minute to go here, Tex. And last year, the night we had our Sasquatch encounter, about 20 minutes after we saw it, all of a sudden, way in the distance of the forest, we hear, "Woo!" just like Ric Flair, right? And then about 20, 30 minutes after that, we hear the same voice again. I couldn't tell, maybe Mike, if you're in the chat room, put it in there, whether it was closer or not. But I mean, those two, it was, when you're in the middle of the forest, and a lot of city people won't understand this. Okay. But when you are in the middle of dense forest, there's just not a person around that corner or a mile away or at that next cutback. That's not how the forest works. Mike says it was closer, the second one. But I mean, I'd never heard that before. And to all of a sudden get like a clear woo, just like I'm doing to you, man. I mean, it was odd. It was odd and eerie. You don't want stuff like that talking to you in the forest. That is for sure. Spaced Out Radio continues the monster talk. Big Tex from Texas Front Porch on YouTube. Make sure you go hit subscribe. Check it on out. We'll be back with your questions in hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio right after this. And the cool part about it is, when we heard that woo, we weren't making noise. Like we're
Mm.
not out there acting like the idiots from Finding Bigfoot, taking a microphone up to our ass and ripping one. We're not doing that. We're not banging drums or anything like that. This was right out of the ordinary, that woo, man. Right out of the ordinary. Ozzy, oi oi to you. Luscious Jules, good to see you. Dirty Filth, we're going to turn this over to you. I'm going to take a quick break here. Tex, you can hang out if you want.
Whoop. Dave's gone. Hi, Big Tex. How's it going?
Good. I'm trying to figure out what you're painting here.
Ooh.
It's actually one of my one of my favorite parts of the show is trying to figure out what you're painting.
Well, it's definitely set in Texas, that's for sure. I've been to Texas once. It's extremely hot there for Canadian fellows.
And
like
I always
myself.
tell people tell, oh, we want to come down. And I tell them, do not come down during the summer. that is not something I would wish on my worst enemy.
I went to Texas in May.
Well, that's usually not too bad.
Yes, May.
Yeah.
No, it was March actually. Sorry.
Oh well, that's
I want a trip off a radio show to go to Costa Rica. We stopped over in Houston.
Oh, Houston's brutal.
Yes, it was really hot. The lady, I went to the kiosk thing to like, hey, Bertie, get something to eat. And y'all from Canada, right? I'm like, maybe. Yeah, it was pretty glaring.
They have
my best Canadian on, and
they have the Daniel Boone National Forest down there, and we call it the Big Thicket area too. And they've they've got some pretty raspy critters down there. They're not in the best mood. Of course, if I lived down in that area, I wouldn't be in a bad mood. I wouldn't be in a good mood either with the heat and the freaking humidity down there. Luckily, we don't have the humidity levels that they do down there in Houston, but it does get pretty brutal up here, especially the last couple of years. But right now it's really nice. It's getting to low 50s, high 40s at night, and 60s during the day. It's but spring over here in Texas is because I live down here in Fort Worth, and it's the tail end of the Tornado Alley. So you never can tell what you're going to get popped with. We had a big windstorm move through not too long ago. So.
Yeah, I mean, the heat's something different. It's different than like right now. I'm still shoveling snow.
Yeah,
I go out in the mornings and got to clean off the car. It's all snowy, but I guess you say animals are rowdy and critters are rowdy. I mean, it's like the skunk ape in Florida. If I lived in Florida and I had to live in a swamp and I was stinky and sweaty all the time, I'd be really grumpy too. And then you get all these weirdos coming in there trying to take pictures of you, and I'd be pretty rowdy as well.
Christopher asked me many sightings around Fort Hood. Yeah, actually there have been. There's quite a few of them that have happened on Fort Hood and done in that area. Let's see if I missed any over here. Donna Spencer says they whistle at you. Yeah, we've got a whistle on tape too. Jason and another one of our trackers were sitting alone in camp. We were out gallivanting around, and they were having a conversation. And this was a whippoorwill, but it wasn't a whippoorwill. It was the worst sounding whippoorwill.
Like a bird?
I think I could do a better one.
Is a whippoorwill a bird?
Yeah. Its call sounds like it's saying whippoorwill. Whippoorwill, whippoorwill.
Weird. My favorite
we're not
bird
real
in Canada is
creative down here. We have
Well,
the
no, I mean, you
whippoorwill.
call it, right?
We have the whippoorwill, and then we have the bobwhite quail because it sounds like they're going Bob White, Bob White.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Dave.
Dirty filth. You're just dirty.
Where did the dirty
Actually, it
filth
wasn't. I had a
come
shower
from?
today.
Anyway? I gotta know.
Where did dirty
I've
filth
used-
come from? Well, if you're filthy, you're dirty.
Yes. That was my pen name since like grade 7, way back in the day.
Oh wow!
I had to come up with a character name for old video game, and I just went with filth. And they didn't have the I, so I went, oh, use Y because that's interesting, and it stuck. And so it's been like that forever.
All right. Hi, Thurston Howell III. How are you? And who else has joined us here?
I hope Lovey is okay.
I'm sure. Michael Haywood. What happened to Lovey? I don't know. Way above my pay scale. And thank you to our super chatters, W. Decker, Sugar Britches, and Monica. Here we go with hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. We want to say hello to everybody listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Subsago. Subsago is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Big Tex from Texas Front Porch on YouTube joins us about chasing down monsters along the Oklahoma-Texas border. Tex, thank you so much for joining us tonight, my man.
Enjoying the heck of it, man. Anytime me and you get to sit down and chew the fat about this kind of stuff, it's enjoyable.
Oh, I enjoy it so much. You know what? I love the UFO stuff, okay? But it is becoming so damn political that I find myself kind of veering away from that and getting more into the monster stuff, and I realize a lot of people don't like calling Bigfoot or Sasquatch or Dogman or anything monsters. They prefer cryptids. I don't really care. Okay. You know what? My son's friends come up to me and they say, "Are you a monster hunter?" That is the coolest stuff ever. Coolest stuff ever. When you see these kids' faces light up, yeah, I'm a monster hunter. Me and my buddies, Mike and Mark and everybody, we go out looking for monsters. And, I'll say our boy comes with us too. He's a little monster hunter. There's just something fun about it, Tex.
That, you know what? It's a pretty awesome title to have, somebody calling you. It's, you want to say, yeah, it's a job. It's a dirty job. Somebody's going to do it.
It is. But I mean, let's face it. Let's face it, though. It is absolutely fun. What do you do on your weekends? I chase monsters.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Talk about starting a conversation.
You got that right. You totally got that right. My buddy Mike says, love it when the boy comes along, Dave. Adds a different dimension to it. You know what? And that's one thing I love, too. Monster hunting aside, I love taking my son out because my buddy Mark and my buddy Mike, who's in the chat room, the one thing that they also do with my boy is they are way more prepared for the wilderness than I am. way more prepared. And they have taught him so much, from little things like how to use a knife, to watch out where you're stepping, and everything along those lines, what to look for. And they're just as protective of him as I am. So, I mean, you got to, if anything ever chased us down, man, you got to go through 3 big brutes in order to get to the boy. That's for sure.
Well, and that's something else that we've recently been blessed with, honestly, is young people joining us. And I'm really excited to see that, because for a long time, and Nick's one of them, and he recently went out with us, little text, big text, I don't know what he's called so many different things, but Nick from the After Hours show. And we had just an absolute blast. And I got to tell you, he is such a great guy to have in the field, because he doesn't get rattled real easy. But even when he does get a little rattled, he handles it. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't freak out. And that's something you've got to be able to keep your head on your shoulders, So that was very enjoyable. And we're going to be going out some more. So.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. You investigate this one area quite frequently. You try and get out there as much as possible. Why do you focus on one area rather than jumping area to area to area where there may be activity?
Well, the biggest part of it is the variety of activity that we have out there. What we've been trying to figure out is there an area? Is it tied to a certain, is it narrowed down to a certain area? Can we get outside that paranormal bubble and separate them? And it's given us the chance to study all these different phenomena, and try and figure out if they are the same thing, if they are connected. Because if we can do that and figure out a better way, because honestly, there's no, it's not like you have these things under glass, any of this stuff that you can sit and study, day after day, or in a controlled environment. But this is pretty much the closest thing that I know of that we have. It's almost like a Skinwalker Ranch type thing, where this area, no matter when you go, something's going to happen. So you have to be on your A game all the time. And it's just full of opportunities. So why go somewhere else? Don't get me wrong. I love going other places. I've been in New Mexico, and other places in Oklahoma and Texas, but I have not seen a place like this anywhere. And that's why I keep going back.
Do you also feel that, and I have been told this, so I'll ask you the question. Do you also feel that the cryptids, if you continue going to that area over and over again, they get used to you? They look for patterns. And if they see, like when we go, we park in the exact same spot, usually with the exact same vehicles. If we set up our campfire, if we're allowed fires at that point, the fire is in the same place. The lawn chairs are in the same place. Everything is the same. Do you feel that is a benefit towards setting up an area where they know they get used to the smells, whether it's of the people, whether it's of the vehicles, whether it's of whatever you're cooking on the campfire? What do you think?
I definitely think that is a possibility, and I think it's more of a possibility because your dog gets used to hearing you. He knows when you're coming up, so why wouldn't these things, if they're half as intelligent as we give them credit for, why wouldn't they start to recognize, people that they like being around or that they don't like being around? Why wouldn't they learn to recognize the vehicles and stuff? So I do think that if you're trying to develop, for lack of a better term, a relationship with a certain bunch, okay, I think they're nomadic in certain areas more so than others. But if you have an area that's very active and it continues to produce, you know, evidence and it does behoove you to go back and go back and go back, because if you can make these things realize that you're not a threat, and I think that has a lot to do with it too, your intent as you go out, because I think these things can sense intent, not unlike a horse can or a dog can. You know, a horse, you saddle up on a horse, and if you're scared of horses, it's going to know it, and you ain't going to be in that saddle very long. So you've got, and it's not the way you talk, it's the way you sit, it's the way, you know, they pick up on that. And I think these things, these critters, whatever they are, have that same ability. But it's nothing like, I don't see that ability as being a supernatural aspect to them or anything like that. It's just a natural thing, like a lot of other animals. But it's, I think it's, I used to go to one specific campsite a lot. And then when I would have others come with me, we started venturing out and using these other ones, because we wanted to see if the activity followed us, for lack of a better term. And now we've got this one campsite that we really enjoy, that it's produced a lot for us. But it has kind of taken us out of, we think we may have stepped out of that paranormal bubble per se. So and we can go down the road and get right back into it if we want to investigate that type of thing. But what we're experiencing around the camp, so far as we can tell right now, this new campsite, are the physical creatures.
Before we get to some audience questions, let's get to one of your good stories that you have from this area. And I know you got plenty, but you know, what's the closest encounter? Tell us about the closest encounter outside of the tent story that you have had with these creatures while you're on the search.
You know, as far as distance goes, of course, you know, like you said, the tent thing aside, I've been down there by myself, and they'll get within. I've had them creep up on their belly as close as to 10 foot in camp. I've had them. Me and Gary Sr. and Gary Jr. were in camp, and we had one step out right behind my truck, and evidently stood there and watched us for a little bit, and then ran beside my truck. And we're parked. I was parked right next to the campfire, and we were sitting around the campfire. So, you know, you're talking 15 feet, maybe 20 feet. And then it ran back into the tree line. When Junior got up and he went over and he was looking at something, and he says, "Hey, y'all come over here." And we went over there, and we were seeing this thing. We saw this thing. We thought it was a partial tree is what we thought it was. And then Senior said, "Well, that tree just walked off." So I've had them
walked off.
Yeah, the tree just turned around and walked off. So, you know, they've came in very, very close to us, and that's great. I mean, you know, the closest that is the one nighttime sighting that I've had that I can. And I've gotten very, very skeptical with this, and very, very hard on myself to debunk everything. And when I say debunk it as a physical creature, because there's so much paranormal activity in that area where we were, that it's hard to say that a lot of the stuff can't be written off as paranormal. And that nighttime sighting was the one nighttime sighting that I can comfortably say in my own mind that was a physical creature, because it left a twig that it looked like it was sitting there playing with it. It was only about this long, but it was a green twig, and it was broken like 4 different places, like he was sitting there playing with it with his fingers. And we had, that same weekend, we had found tracks down in the river. We had also seen something on the other side of camp, but I guess I've had them sit there and throw rocks at me in camp, and you could see them, little pebbles sailing through the tree line, you know. So I've had a lot of close encounters. That sounded weird, but it.
Well, let me ask you a new question here before we continue on. When you are in an area where these creatures are,
Mhm.
and you're getting rocks or pebbles thrown at you, or them sneaking up to your truck or whatever it may be, are you feeling safe?
Yeah. Yeah. My goal is when that stuff starts happening is to not acknowledge it. And I've had to, you have to train yourself to do that, because it seems like to me, and this is I've had more success what I consider success, um, ignoring them, because I think they think they're getting away with something. And I think mainly it's the juveniles, because I think they're out there causing trouble and messing with us. When we were off air, somebody asked me a question about any vocals and calls and whistles and that type of thing, and I was talking about we had a whistle that was the worst sounding whippoorwill I've ever heard in my life, and at camp. And I think what that is, when you hear these owls that are not quite right, or these bird calls that are not quite right, or these coyote calls that are a little off a little bit, I think that's the juveniles honing their craft. Because I think that once they hit these adult ages, they've gotten so good at this stuff that you can't tell the difference. And we get a lot of that.
All right, let's go to our audience questions here. Let's start off with one of our first-time listeners, Guth1980. What is the purpose of tree structures? They cover up their footprints, bury their bed, but leave tree structures. Wonder why.
Well, it's like I said earlier, I'm one of the hardest critics on tree structures. I don't know. I'm sure the bigger ones have a purpose, but I don't think anybody, now there are people out there that say they're in communication with these creatures, and they've been told what these tree structures are for. I have not been blessed or cursed enough to be able to communicate with them. So I don't know what they mean. And I think it's very arrogant for somebody that I think it's very arrogant of us to say we know what they mean. I think a lot of these smaller tree structures are, again, I'll go back to the juveniles, and a lot of these what people call gifts or glyphs that these I think we talked a little bit about it one time, or when I was on the show last week, about these little figurines and these little and stuff that you see laying in the forest and everything. I think it's the juveniles. They're playing. What else they got to do? These little trees that are woven into odd patterns and stuff. I do think they'll make a bed. I've got one that I found a cedar tree, or we found a cedar tree. It was me and Dee and God, who may have been Barry. I can't remember who was with us. We were up and we found a cedar tree that had all the limbs stripped off of it from about 15 feet up, just on one side. They hadn't been sawed off. They hadn't been cut off. They were stripped off, and they were all piled up at the bottom of this tree, and something had been bedding on it. I don't know an animal out there in my area that would do that. But
I don't know either.
Yeah, I can't say what the purpose of their tree structures are. If I was to guess, I guess you could call it more than a guess. I have a theory. I guess it's. I'm sure they use them for markers, maybe to as markers to where, hey, saying humans are in this area, or there's a good hunting area this way, that type of thing. Why wouldn't they?
Guth says, I think you gave a very honest answer. I appreciate that. Let's go to W. David Page. Have you seen any of David Paulides' Bigfoot course on YouTube?
No, I haven't. I've seen it out there, but no, I have not watched it.
Yeah, I haven't either, so I can't comment on it.
Yeah,
My
I
buddy
can-
Mikey is asking, Big Tex, you ever seen a UFO at the same time as a Bigfoot?
I've never seen a UFO that I know of.
You're missing out. You're missing out. You need some aliens. A beard like that, you need some aliens.
Well, we did talk about, my time missing incident, and there are Danielle is in the chat. I've talked to her about it, and Jessica Jones, she remote viewed it, and supposedly me and Dee were abducted. So I'm still, honestly, Dave, I'm still trying to get my mind wrapped around that incident, because I don't know what happened. There was no ill effects from it. It's not like we woke up on the forest floor, we woke up in a daze, or woke up, we just missed our turn to go back up to the truck, but we missed it by a quarter of a mile, and there was 4 or 5 hours missing when we got back to the truck. So, but I was told that I was abducted, and I didn't go without a fight, and they made the comment, "Oh, we got a big one."
Oh, yeah, I hear you there. Let's go to Mike again. But before we go to Mike, Mike and I were actually leaning up at our Sasquatch spot this year, a couple weeks before we saw the big guy. We're leaning up on the front of his truck, and we actually saw a UFO morph in the sky right in front of
Wow.
us.
Wow.
It was incredible. And we're just kind of looking at it like, you got to be kidding me right now. You got to be kidding me right now. Like, this is happening. And the minute I went to pull my phone out of my pocket, the damn lights started blinking out. It knew. It knew. Nobody can convince me that it didn't know. Because the minute I started for my phone, the bottom 2 lights disappeared, and then the top one faded out. Like, you sons of guns. All right, Mike's next question. Many cases of huge trees being uprooted and stuck upside down here in Canada. Have you had that down in your area, Tex?
I haven't seen that. The closest thing to that I've seen, and I touched on it last week, was a tree twist. And this tree was it was what we call live oak trees down here, and it was big enough where I couldn't get. I tried to put both hands around it, and they wouldn't fit. So this tree was twisted to the extent to where it just exploded. It looked like a paper lantern that you used to make with construction paper back in elementary school, and it was just twisted, popped, and laid over into another tree haphazardly. It was me and Dee again. We looked around that area extensively for any kinds of sign of tool marks or anything, vehicle marks or anything like that. There wouldn't have been no vehicle. You'd have to have a ATV to get down there. There was no trails, no nothing. And somebody could say, well, okay, it was the wind. All right, well, this tree was surrounded by dead saplings about this big around. None of them were touched. So that is, as far as that type of thing, that's the most convincing thing that I've ever seen. But I have not seen a tree stuck up, uprooted, and I would love to see that. Don't get me wrong. But I think I got bigger critters up there in Canada than we do down here.
Yeah, well, the one we saw, we figure was at least 10 feet. We figure it was at least 10 feet tall.
The ones I've seen, the tallest one I saw was about 8 feet.
Yeah, this one, he was a big guy. Big guy. Now, people will say, how did you do it? Well, there's a tree right beside it that we could measure it by.
Right.
And he was bigger than that.
And I think that's one of the most important.
I'm going to get you to hold on. We are going to go to break here right after this on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to continue the Sasquatch Monster Talk on Spaced Out Radio. Are you going into the forest? Are you going looking? Just be safe. Know what to do. Spaced Out Radio is back right after this. Wonderful. Good job, bud.
Thank you.
Good job. Hey, we got 217 people out there tuning us in. If you could, we'd appreciate a thumbs up, thumbs down. And don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. Dirty Filth, how you doing down there, buddy?
Oh, working on cartoons.
You forgot the A.
I think I'm missing a pen. That's
Oh,
right.
no.
Oh, no. I can't wait to get back in the forest. I am so pumped up about getting back in the forest.
Man, I'll tell you what, when I can't go, I sure do miss it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fixing to start investigating another area, though.
Thank you, Human Carl.
It's a place called Lake Worth, Texas, and it's where the famous Goatman sighting was back in the 60s. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a couple areas around here where there have been some dogman sightings.
Ooh.
And I don't. It's funny because the highway 97 that goes up towards Alaska. If you're on the left side of the highway in our area, it's all Sasquatch and little people. You go on the right side of the highway, it's Sasquatch, dogman, and little people.
Yeah, and I've yet to figure out the relationship between the Sasquatch and the dogman, because I hear so many different, versions of it, and you get people that say that they work together, that they can't stand each other, and even so far as Bigfoot uses them as pets, and so it's all that people claim that they've got pictures of them in the same nest, and I don't know. I think I have my personal thoughts on that, but I think they tolerate each other.
Filthy YJ Overlander is asking, have you tried Chinese calligraphy black ink pens?
Yeah, I got some calligraphy pens around here. It has to be a larger,
solid tip that's tapered and flexible like a brush. He says you would love them.
I'm gonna look into it.
Right on. Yeah, this one area that we got. Hi, Zig Ziglar. Now that we know that it's there, I'm going to be spending almost every Saturday out there. Saturday night's going to be my night. Nice. And just go out there and get things done and really try to push it. You know what I'm saying? In a good way. But really try and push it.
And that's one thing that I do that a lot of people don't agree with. I'm a little more pushy, I guess, because they start making noise and stuff. That's I'm gonna go. I want more of that, and I'm going to try my best not to go away from it. Mm-hmm. I don't want them to chase me out. I've heard so many people talk about it. But I really haven't had that happen. I've had it one time where it's when I first started. Really, was getting my feet wet in it, and I went to the area, and I got out of my truck, and it was night, and I was hearing footfalls all around me. Heard some whoops, and I just didn't feel comfortable. So I got my truck and I drove back into civilization, a couple miles up the road, gathered myself, went back. It didn't feel so, that feeling wasn't so overwhelming, and I wasn't hearing so much, and I went on about with what I was going to do. And so that's really the only time that I've left an area that when I wasn't sure if I was comfortable or not, if that makes sense. We've had this noise that we used to call a 500-pound woodpecker. And it sounded like somebody had a cedar post just beating against a hollow tree. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da, like that.
Hold on one second here, buddy. Thank you to W. Decker, Sugar Britches, Monica, Cat Chaser, and Deb for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. Don't forget to shop at our store, spacedoutradio.com as well. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. Next half hour, final one with Big Tex from Texas Front Porch here on the mighty SOR, and he is investigating Sasquatch. Dogman reports out in the area of Oklahoma and Texas. Tex, welcome back.
Thanks, sir.
Good to have you with us, my man. Show is flying on by. Tex, you know, all things aside, you've ran into Dogman, you've ran into Sasquatch. What else have you heard that's being chased in that area or being seen?
Well, I've heard about werewolves. I've heard, of course, the skinwalker stuff. I've not heard. I've heard of the little people that we may or may not have a picture of that was taken by What the Paranormal of something. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what it is. And if you go to their channel, you can find the video. But they were up in Brown Springs Cemetery and they're filming, and this thing materializes out of a tree and turns around and walks off. I call it the Jawa because to me, that's what it looks like, but it's only about 3.5, 4 feet tall. But I think that was something paranormal or supernatural. I don't know what it was material. I don't know if it materialized out of the tree, if there was a porthole there. I don't know, but it is weird. I know some of the interactions I was getting, I can't remember who it was telling me, well, that sounds more like the little people. And I'm like, well, it could be, but we've got some, I think it's juvenile Sasquatch, but I've not had much dealings with the little people that I know of, but I do know that they're reported to be out there. So I think my next goal, if you can set goals, because you never know what's going to pop up. I would like to get eyes on one of those little critters. I really would.
Me too. What about chupacabra?
You know what? I'm not so sure about the chupacabra because it's the description from, when it started, it was down south and it came across the border and it was something totally different. I'm not so sure if it's just not I think it's two different things that they were dealing with, with the spikes and all that kind of stuff. And it was upright and that, versus when you get back, when you jump over the river across from Mexico into Texas, it changes into basically a dog, just a weird looking hybrid dog. So I don't know. I would have to see something. I haven't had any reports of that out there, but hell, everything else is out there.
Well, I know I've asked you this before, but I'm going to ask you again. One of the hardest ones that cryptids, if we could call it that, that's apparently out there in the Texas area and in that Oklahoma area where you are, is there's people who allege they have come across mini Tyrannosaurus rexes, mini Velociraptors, and in the sky, they've come across pterodactyls flying around. I mean, are the dinosaurs still alive out there? Have you heard reports of that?
Well, Jason is, he hates when I call him this, but this is because I can't pronounce all them fancy words. I call them dino birds. But he actually had a sighting just outside of Dallas of a pterosaur. Hey, I did it. But what's he say? A ranfractoid. He'll be proud of me on that one. But so yeah, we get reports of that. I haven't gotten reports of them in that area, but we certainly have those around Texas for sure. Now, I haven't heard so much of the little T-Rexes or the Velociraptors or anything like that. But I think that they are I don't think they're as old as mainstream science would lead you to believe. I'll put it that way. Because I don't think we could pull soft tissue and DNA out of them if they were.
I hear you there. That's one of those things that I would love. There's certain things that you want to be true.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And what are these people seeing, man? Are they seeing alligators running on hind legs or monitor lizards or some kind of lizard running on their back feet? That would make sense for a mini T-Rex or Velociraptor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it would. The closest thing we got to that is the Roadrunners that we. But it's, of course, we do have the dreaded hoop snake down here in Texas.
The hell is that?
It is a snake. He'll get to. You see them a lot on the roads, and they'll get crawling really, really, really fast, and then it's like they stop their head and they'll grab their tail and they'll roll like a hoop.
No. Oh, I gotta see one of those.
Yeah,
that would be weird.
That's an old wives' tale.
I'm falling for that. You know that. Thanks.
Well, Dave, I gotta have a little fun at your expense, brother.
I agree. Let's get to more audience questions here. All right, let's go to Sweet Donna Spencer. Big Tex, have you ever seen any orbs fly around you while you've been out there?
That's an interesting question. I've seen one, and I don't know what, and that's just because I don't know what else to call it. Okay. I was out by myself several years ago, and I was sitting in camp and I saw this looked like a red laser pointer. Okay. And at first I thought it was because I was looking through the tree line and I saw this thing. And at first I thought it was a far off airplane. Okay. Back on the horizon. It was dark. And I'm like, okay, and it was solid. It never blinked. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. And I just I watched it for a few minutes and I got to where I would just look back at it and it was still there. And then it went on, it went away. Well, I got up, I was going to throw wood on a fire or something. And I just walked, I want to go see where this thing was, and, get a better look at the horizon. Maybe I can see, you know what I'm saying? So I'm walking towards where this thing was, but the problem was it was between me and a tree that was about 20 feet away from me. But it looked like a little red pin light. Now, fast forward a couple of months, I took a couple out there with me and we were sitting around camp, and it was a guy and a girl. She saw the exact same thing that I did in the exact same place. That's the closest I can say that I've ever seen of an orb. I don't know what else to call it.
All right, this kind of leads to Kira's question. Have you ever photographed orange-colored orbs in Sasquatch active areas?
I have not. No, I have not. I have. See, was that one orange? D took a shot when he was coming out of the cemetery and actually said, "Wouldn't that be weird if there was a ghost or something or orb or whatever?" And snapped a picture, and there was an actual, I think it was orange, orb in front of us. But I personally have not captured any orbs on camera. I don't take a lot of pictures, to be honest with
Are you mainly out there for your own experience?
you. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I'll run audio, but I don't. We tried the whole game camera thing. We're still toying with it. We brought some other tools into it, and I don't think you're going to use. We use EMF meters. We've got a spectrograph that we use. We've got a Geiger counter that we use. Every once in a while we'll throw an obelisk into it. I really don't. Those don't hold a lot of weight with me, but because I think things can manipulate that type of thing and make you hear what they want you to hear. Does that make any sense? Of course, I guess that's what they're there for, but I also think it could be, it's too subjective to outside forces. But I don't think we're gonna. I don't go up there trying to find Bigfoot with ghost hunting tools. Those tools are reserved for just sorting out anomalies like the radiation spike that I told you about. It's a spectrograph we were getting infrasound in two different places, one down by camp. And we're trying to determine where that was coming from, because there's some outside forces, there's some or noise contamination that we have to rule out. But it was present there.
All right, let's continue on here. Let's go to Tim. Do you use night vision when you explore?
On occasion, yeah. The problem is every time we try to use it quits working. We'll put fully charged batteries in it and then walk up the hill and it goes dead.
That's not good. That's not good.
We actually had a couple of bow hunters come through camp, and they were, "Hey, do y'all mind if we pass through? We're going to check out our game cameras down here." We said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Talk to them and everything. And y'all caught anything strange on your game cameras or anything like that? Oh, we caught a black bear, which is odd in that area. They're there, but they're very rare. We're like, "Oh, cool. We just had a sighting, a couple of days ago." So they said, "Yeah, we're having to go down here and replace the batteries in our in our game cameras because they keep going dead." I'm like, "Really?"
Okay, let's go to a new question. This one from Donna again. Big Tex, have you dreamed about Bigfoot the day or night before you saw one?
No, I have not. I've had plenty of Bigfoot dreams. In fact, I have a couple of recurring ones, but that I've had for years, but never. What's odd is I don't have them when I'm out in the field. So I've never had one right before I had an encounter or anything. No.
And last question I have from our audience. Is there any known relationship, in your opinion, between the condor and Sasquatch?
Not that I know of. I've never even heard. That's the first time I've ever seen somebody bring that up. I don't know what relationship there would be between them unless they're. I guess you could go out on a limb and see if they're using them like falcons. I don't know.
All right. What do you want to learn about this creature? What do you want to know?
One, I want to find out what they are best I can. I think that's, but I just love the experiences. But I think number one on the list would be to try to figure out what they actually are. If they can communicate with us, I would love to communicate with them, but I want to do it. I want to sit down and share my hamburger with one, he's squatting across camp and I'm throwing my hamburger patty or whatever and have that. And that's the interaction that I'm looking for. I just don't want to be the hamburger patty. But I have no desire. I have no desire to mind speak with them, which, a lot of people, claim they can do that. I'm open to it. I try not to shut it down as a possibility. And if it does happen to me, I'll be the first one. I'm coming on your show, Dave, and I'm going to go, you ain't going to believe this. This happened to me, and I am 100% in the woo camp now. But I think for me, it's really figuring out what they are and where they came from, how long they've been. And I would love to have an interaction with them at that level.
I don't blame you. For me, I want to have that close encounter. Okay, where it's just me, maybe my son around or my friends around, but I want that 10, 20, 30 foot encounter, where you're just standing there in awe. You're not worried about photographs. You're not worried about cameras. You're not worried about anything. You are just taking that moment in, and just enjoying that moment for all that it's worth, because the likelihood of it happening again are so slim to none. You probably have a better chance at winning the Powerball than you do of having that happen again.
Right.
That's the moment I long for. I long for that moment, and this year, if we have another encounter like we did last year where that guy is at 100 yards away, I'm preparing for that moment now.
Yeah.
I want to walk up there. I want to see what he or she is going to do. I'm going to walk up in peace. I'm not going to shine my flashlight in its eyes. Okay. But I'm going to walk up there and I want to see if this creature will respect me. Man, if I die, what a good death. Okay. Rip my arm off and beat me with it. I'm okay with that. That's a good death.
What a way to go, huh?
Well, not everybody can say that. Right. But I got bragging rights, but no, on a serious level, I'm not afraid of the creature.
Me either.
And I think if it's allowing, I've always been a firm believer in this, and I'm curious your opinion, Tex. Okay, I've been a firm believer ever since I heard from a lot of First Nations friends and elders about this. Okay, and that is, you don't see Sasquatch. Sasquatch allows you to see them. They are that smart in the forest. And that goes for both flesh and blood and or the supernatural side of it. And if we have been in that same area like you have for the amount of time you have investigated that area, they know. They know the sound of your vehicle. They know the smell of your skin from a mile away. They know if you're smoking cigars or cigarettes. They know what, everything. They are that. I give them that much credit. Your thoughts, Tex?
I think that is true to a certain extent, but I do think even experts and pros at anything screw up. Okay. And I do think they make mistakes. That's part of when they start coming in close, that you'll hear that twig break, you'll hear that rustle, and they're trying to sneak up on you. And the success that I've had is the more you ignore that, the closer they come, because they don't think you hurt them. Some of the road crossings I think are mistakes, misjudgments. But honestly, I think probably if disclosure happens, that it's going to happen on the busy highway. A juvenile is going to get popped, and there's going to be too many witnesses to shut it down. That's kind of what I see happening. But and I'm on the fence of whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, because I don't want to see a bunch of yahoos out there trying to put a head on the wall for these creatures, because they're majestic, whatever they are. They're majestic, and I don't want to see any of them killed. I believe there has been. I believe our government knows more about them than they're letting on. Same thing with the UFO thing. But I think we're headed for disclosure. I think we're in. It's like I think we touched on this either off. I can't remember if it was off air or not. But we were talking about the whole disclosure thing, and it's it's been what 70 plus, almost 70 plus years or whatever, since the Roswell crash, right? And now we're at the level we are right now with the government. They came out and kind of said, okay. And now everybody knows that. I think pretty much everybody realizes, okay, we're not alone. There's something out there, right? And it's not a joking matter like it was. The ufologist, if I can use that term, are not looked at as much as tongue-in-cheek as they were 10 years ago. Okay? It's taken more serious. And I think we're in the midst of that with Bigfoot, because we're seeing, if you look at the whole, how UFOs were treated with the Hollywood and everything, and you started seeing them more and more and more, we became comfortable with the fact that we probably aren't alone. And they're doing the same thing with Sasquatch. You're seeing more movies come out. You're seeing even children's movies come out, children's books coming out about them. You got one children's movie out there that even breached the fact that a woman bred with a Bigfoot and had a Bigfoot child. So I think we're headed in that direction. And once they get everybody comfortable enough, they're going to come off of it and go, okay, yeah, these things are out here. They're an unknown, whatever. So,
my friend, we got 90 seconds to go. It is that time where we got to start wrapping things up. It is always way too much fun when you are on this show, Big Tex. It really is. And I always appreciate how you will go out of your way to spend time with our audience and teaching us about this subject. So thank you so much.
Anytime. I love coming on, and I love talking to you. And I told you earlier, I feel so bad I can't make it to Vegas, brother. I wanted to see you so bad, but I wish you the best and the best birthday ever out there.
Oh, I wish you were coming too, my man. But we're going to have lots of fun, and we'll make sure you're there next year, because as soon as this year's event is over, we're planning the following year's event, because you got to make sure that people have enough time and everything.
Yep.
Big Tex, do us a favor. Tell everybody where they can find your YouTube channel.
Y'all hit us up over on YouTube at Texas Front Porch. That's TEX', because it's my front porch, evidently. But the inmates run the asylum. You can catch us on Monday nights, 6:30 p.m. Central. Tuesday nights, you go over and catch my buddy Bob Van Buren at Van Buren Varieties at 7 Central. And then Jason does his own thing over on Untold Radio. And then Wednesdays, we've got Jason McLean Questions Everything at 8 Central. And then Thursdays at noon, you got Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Y'all all know him. Y'all love him. And then Thursday night at 8 Central, I believe, it's me and Rob on Beyond BMR. And then I screwed that up. Friday nights, we got Blondes, Booze, and the Woo. But
love it.
We're on all the time.
Love it. Super Big Tex, thank you so much. Coming up next, we're heading to the swamp. And then little Timmy Senor joins us for the UFO report on this momentous day. We'll be right back with Hour 3. That's fun, guys. Good job, everybody. Good job. Let's take a good look here at Dirty Filth's picture of the night. Fluffy,
Texas Ranger.
I love it.
That is awesome, Filth. Bang, bang.
She's got
Love it.
Oops.
He reminds me of dadgummit, Mick Foley. Bang bang. Have a nice day.
Yes. Yes.
Cactus Jack.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, you should do, Filth, is you should do a cryptid, an alien, and a dogman or your Mothman, all in the different Mick Foley outfits, and send it to them.
Ooh, that's a good idea. I'm gonna write that one down right now.
All right. Thank you, lovely Kira, for that amazing super chat. Along with Derek, Sweet Donnie Cho ×2, Deb, Cat Chaser, Monica, Sugar Birches, and W. Decker. I appreciate the love, everybody. Appreciate the love. All right. Dirty Phil, turning it over to you and Tex. Tex, I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, buddy.
He's gone to let the dog man out. Look at him. So you get the nice shiny belt buckles and everything. Extra booster here. I can move it up a little bit.
Yeah, I'll tell you, these shows they're especially with Dave, they're so fun. And we could, thank you, Kira. We could honestly, we could have sat here and went for another 2 hours. There's just so much that you want to go over, you want to talk about, and you want to share, but it's just like you always run out of time. Susie B, you know what? I'll talk about that on over on my channel. Remind me, and I'll go into them. What's Sasquatch? You don't want to hear my dreams about you, Susie?
So,
thank you, Anthony.
What's the consensus on the color of Sasquatch's eyes?
I
always figured they would be blue.
Well, a lot of them are, you hear a lot of people talk about the red glowing eyes. Personally, I think it's, I don't think they're glowing. I think if you got a dark figure with red glowing eyes, it's not Bigfoot. That's just my personal opinion. But it's, I think most of them are described as brown or even black. So.
Well, I've always figured they'd be blue, so I've always made my Sasquatch with blue eyes.
Hey, there ain't nothing wrong with, hey. In fact, I think in fact, I know I have. I've heard a few reports of that. So I've even heard reports of Dogman with blue eyes. When I saw him had brown eyes.
I've never seen a Dogman. I've seen plenty of dogs, but no Dogman.
I was about 20, 25 feet away from one in broad daylight. So
I probably have to change my pants.
Well, I always say that was an underwear changing moment for me. What was his name again? Me Woykin asked, what do they eat? You know what? I'm going to answer that. I'm going to answer that question just like I answer anybody that's ever asked me. Whatever the hell they want to eat, that's what they eat. I think, there's been reports of them snatching up pigs and wildlife and livestock and even eating coyotes. And so they're going to eat whatever's available. I think that's why you see them, you hear so many reports of them around berry patches too. We've got the campsite that we use. We have one side is leading to the river and it's got about a 10, 12 foot gully on one side. And then it's got on the other side, it's got a wild plum thicket. I think that's why it's such a great area. Part of the reason. So,
What do you think is going to happen when the tiger meets up and there's a dog man and a Sasquatch? It's a three-way standoff.
That may be why they haven't seen any, and that may be why we haven't heard so many tiger reports. They may have, once the Sasquatch figured out they were in the area, they took care of them. That's a very good possibility.
So we're going to see Sasquatch walking around with tiger pelts, is what you're telling us?
Hey, you never know. Tiger strap loincloth. It's all the rage, man.
On that note, I got to say goodnight to you guys because I got to get ready for the UFO report. Oh, what a show. Tex, thank you so much, buddy.
My pleasure, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Dirty Filth, thank you, my man. That's where you usually say thank you back, Filth, but we'll just put you on mute. How about that? Oh, I can't. Thank you to our super chatters again. And don't forget, you can get your SOR swag at spacedoutradio.com. Don't forget, I will be in San Francisco this weekend. So on Thursday and Friday, Jessica Jones is hosting the show. And then on Monday, we have Marquise Williams filling in for me as well. It's going to be a great time with some great guests. And here we go, everyone, with hour number 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Subsago. Subsago is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again, yes, that time of the night, where we head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller takes us on another spooky journey.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. It was a pretty hot summer day, and I decided to take a break from the city and spend some time fishing at the local state park. I packed my gear and drove to the park, eager to relax and enjoy the peaceful surroundings. As I arrived, I noticed there was a small group of people standing near the water. They looked like they were in their mid-20s, and they all wore black robes with hoods that covered their faces. I thought it was kind of weird, but, people LARP and do all kinds of stuff like that around here, so I tried not to pay too much notice. They didn't seem to notice me as I walked by, but I couldn't shake that feeling that something was off about them. I found a quiet spot by the water and cast my line. The fishing was good, and I caught several fish within the first hour. Every time I looked up, I noticed that group of people in the black robes had moved closer. They seemed to be watching me, and it made me uncomfortable. As the day went on, the group of people grew larger, and more of them arrived in the park. They all wore black robes and hoods, and they all seemed to be focused on me. I felt like I was being stalked, like I was some sort of local celebrity. As the sun began to set, the group of people moved closer once more. They formed a circle around me, and I felt trapped. They were so close that I could see their faces now, and they looked strange and almost otherworldly. Their eyes were dark and hollow. They had strange markings on their skin. One of the people stepped forward and spoke to me in a low, hissing voice.
"We've been waiting for you,"
they said.
"You're in the sacrifice."
I tried to run, but they were too quick. They tripped me up and grabbed me and dragged me into the woods, their voices echoing in my head. I was terrified and confused. What the hell was happening to me? As we entered the woods, I saw that they had built some sort of makeshift altar out of stones and twigs. They pushed me onto it, and I felt a sharp pain in my chest as they began to chant. I almost couldn't move. I almost began to feel paralyzed. I don't know if it was with fear or something else. Suddenly, the chanting abruptly stopped, and the group of people looked up. I heard a deep growling coming from the woods, and then I saw a pair of glowing eyes in the darkness. The group of people panicked and ran, leaving me alone on the altar. I looked up and I saw a massive creature standing over me. It had razor-sharp claws and teeth, and it was covered in what I can only describe as disturbing-looking fur. I realized that the group of people had summoned it, and they had intended to sacrifice me to it. The creature looked down at me, and I felt its hot breath on my face. I closed my eyes and waited for the end, but instead I heard a deep, rumbling growl. When I opened my eyes again, the creature was gone, and I was alone in the woods. I stumbled back to my car, shaken up and absolutely terrified. As I drove away from the state park, I realized the group of people had been worshipping something beyond human understanding, and that creature was likely whatever god they had been praying to. I don't know why it didn't kill me. I have no idea why their sacrifice didn't go as intended. My only guess is that it went after them or something else. If anybody has any idea what I survived, what I got out of, please let me know.
And that's why we love the swamp dweller around here as he joins us at the first hour. Make that the third hour each and every Monday through Friday night to take us on a spooky journey. Yes, if you want more, all you got to do is go to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads. Swamp Dweller literally has thousands of stories just like that for your fun and entertainment. From the swamp to the stars, it is time for us to hit up little Timmy Senor and the UFO report.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
Here we go. It's an anniversary night in the world of UFOs where down in Phoenix, they are celebrating the 26th anniversary of the citizens wondering what the hell was that up in the sky. And our residents listening in on our two affiliates, the Rattler and the Bull, down in Apache Junction, will probably recall the Phoenix Lights happened on this night 26 years ago. My man, Tim, I'll tell you, this is one of those stories that just will not go away. So many people saw UFOs that night. Your good friend Tom King actually recorded it, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But man, you know, to this day, I think studied case with the most evidence in ufology. What do you think, Tim?
I totally agree. There were so many eyeballs and cameras that were up and looking up into the sky at that time in March of 1997. Literally hundreds of people reported seeing the suspicious lights in the sky, including people with cameras in hand, like Dr. Lynn Katai, for example, who recorded the lights from pretty much the beginning to end. And so some claimed the lights were evidence of UFO activity. The event started in Nevada when a local reportedly saw a V-shaped object covered in 6 lights passing overhead. And then shortly afterwards, others reported seeing a set of 9 lights that seemed to hover over Phoenix before disappearing. So multiple witnesses reported seeing the mysterious lights throughout the evening between 7:30 and 10:30 p.m. Many believed the lights were signs of extraterrestrial activity and called into the National UFO Reporting Center to describe what they'd seen. Arizona's then Governor Fife Symington revealed in a 2007 report that he witnessed the event firsthand. Symington described the events as otherworldly. It was much bigger than anything that I'd ever seen, he said, and it remains a great mystery. So one woman tweeted that We lived in Maryville at the time, and we could see them clearly. We initially thought they were just military flares over the South Mountain. However, the Phoenix lights also may have a straightforward explanation. And so, visiting jets from the Maryland Air National Guard were using high-intensity flares over a bombing range near Phoenix on the night in question. However, the flares would have created quite a light show in the southwestern Arizona sky, but may not have appeared the way they were described by the UFO witnesses. And so, Dave, it definitely marked a moment in history, not just in UFO history, but I think kind of in the history of how the media was going to handle the topic. So,
Well,
please.
here's the one thing, man. There are so many different storylines to this. Years later, we found out that actor Kurt Russell was actually flying with his son into Phoenix and actually was allegedly the first pilot to record the sighting, to report it in to the tower, which is interesting. We also know that Davis-Monthan Air Force Base was shut down and fighter jets were scrambled. And one of our former guests here, a paranormal investigator, Dave, who hasn't been on the show in a long time, but he was actually in the Air Force at that point and was locked in the cafeteria with the windows all closed. They were not allowed to look outside for whatever reason. You know, there were over 60 or 70,000 citizens who witnessed that event. And then, wanting answers, the next day, Governor Fife Symington calls a press conference. There is local, state, and national media all in this giant press room, and makes an absolute mockery of his citizens by walking in a 10-foot alien gray or an 8-foot alien gray, a man in a costume, who with handcuffs on, this alien with handcuffs on, and the alien walks up to the microphone and says, "I'm sorry," making complete fun out of this subject. And that is, granted, apparently, and people who live in Arizona will know better than me. Apparently, he wasn't a very, very clean governor, got himself in some other trouble, but this was one of the reasons that led to his downfall, was treating his own citizens like they were stupid.
Yeah. And I think that publicity attempt there was an obvious attempt to put the toothpaste back into the tube, once it had already come out. The same way the military flare excuse and perhaps even release of flares around the same time was a way to perhaps take control of the story and to quell some of the UFO theories and maybe even control some of the public panic that you can be assured was coming in. It wasn't just up in the media. This was actually on the ground level. People were hearing about this, and there was an element of panic. And to talk to friends that were there, such as my friend Tom King, he'll describe an air in the media at the time and people talking of alien invasion. And if you're not getting any kind of confirmation otherwise, and you're just seeing mysterious lights in the news on the sky and people reporting on that, you can probably not blame people for having that nervous feeling and wondering what was really going on. And then feeling like perhaps the military was lying to them, their own government was lying to them, and then adding insult to injury, that event with Fife Symington.
Yeah, I mean, the idea, though, that Symington would do that in front of his citizens. The one question I've always wanted him to be asked, and I've never heard it in an interview, maybe I missed it, okay, was because he did, as you said, come out years later that he witnessed the craft as well. And he knew it was a craft, that it wasn't flares. But my question was that I would love to ask him is this: at any time, did you get a phone call from Washington, D.C. to say, you better clean this mess up? We don't need a UFO encounter like this scaring people or making headline news. You better figure out a way to play this down ASAP. That's what question I would like to ask him, is if he got that phone call from whether it was the president, whether it was the fellow senators in Washington, like John McCain, or I think McCain was part of it back then, I do believe. Pardon, and I apologize if I got that wrong. Or maybe it was the military who contacted him, or maybe some alphabet agencies. I don't know. But I would like to know if he got that phone call, because there was really no reason for him to play the fellow citizens as fools that night.
Well, I think his office was getting inundated with calls, and I'm willing to bet that one of those calls was from a higher up on how to handle it or just to handle it. And so maybe there was some thinking on their feet on what they would do, and this ridiculous event is what they came up with. But I'm absolutely sure that there was some topic control going on with that. And, you know, we've seen that historically, that when something like this takes place, in an order to perhaps keep the public at bay on it until they figure out what it is, they may come out with something like this in a very blanket way just to calm people down. Because there was somebody within the government there locally that had witnessed the event, and she came out publicly in the very beginning saying that this was a real thing and it wasn't just military flares, and that we shouldn't believe the cover story. And not only was she was laughed at when she brought it up amongst her governmental peers, but she also eventually was pressured out of her position in office, and was only really able to talk about it very comfortably years after she was out of that position and that role. And then she came forward to talk to other people that were interested in that. And you can see how that topic is absolutely handled. And it's definitely not going to change. We're still seeing that today.
Yeah, and you know what? We're still going to see it. And it's funny to me, Tim, that in today's technology, in today's ufology, we focus so much on what the government wants us to focus on, which is the USS Nimitz incident in 2004 and going forward, which is 19 years now. Okay. What amazes me about that is when people look back, they always look back to Roswell in 47. And why do you think the Phoenix Lights continues to be overlooked within our parameters of what goes on? Because realistically, this is the first major footage that we have that went international, not national, but international, about what went on. Every newscast was playing that. I know it was here in Canada. It was playing right across the United States on all the major networks. It went into Europe as well, and wherever else it went. I mean, it went viral before anybody knew what going viral was all about.
Right. You make a great point there. And so again, 2023 marking the 26th anniversary of this event, media handled it very differently. If it was in print, then it was kind of considered written as history and as a real event. Now let's consider we're in a much different time where we breeze through so much media that we may not even consider the source as we're reading it. And so it's a little bit different. And so they were very good at controlling that narrative. And the big story that eventually came out and just washed this away as not being as big a deal for the UFO crowd was that strong flare story. That just for all of the skeptics, it was so believable because it existed. The military purposefully went out a second, or not a second time, but they went out and dropped flares that night to cover up the fact that they could call the earlier event a flare event, because they really did drop flares. And so let's consider that. And Dave, on the 25th anniversary last year, you and I not on the same day, but you and I covered a live event together that took place of more lights very similar in the same area. And our sources and a few others considered this definitely a military operation of one sort or another. But I would love to consider the fact that if this had been 1997, it may not have gone that way. And also, let's consider the fact that perhaps we were seeing another cover up in 2022, but it was just much easier to get the cover story across quicker because of the way the internet works and the way chain of information works so quickly now. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. That scenario that we covered almost a year ago now, was in San
Live.
Diego.
Yeah,
And,
live.
and the media outlets were covering it live. At the time, we didn't know, and then we were waiting for confirmation to come on whether or not it was flares, which it ended up being a nighttime military exercise over the Pacific Ocean and then inland and near the Mexican border. I mean, even the Mexican news were covering it, that they didn't know at the time whether it was a UFO around the Tijuana area or not. I mean, we didn't know, and we did our best. We were able to get it confirmed that it was not something from the UFO world. It was American military flares. And the one thing that I remember going through that video with you, because the one thing on the one camera angle that we kept pointing to was they were still having airliners take off from the international airport down there. And you would think that if there was something strange like that happening in the sky, that they would not be launching and having, I shouldn't use the word launching because that's incorrect, but having airliners take off and get on their flight patterns, right? So much different than the Phoenix Lights, but I still think, and you hear me often, Tim, talk about this UFO Pandora's box. I still think that we have this story well within that box. We don't know what happened. I mean, that craft was said to be over 2 miles in length. 2 miles. That's big.
Yeah. And
That's
for
big.
for witnesses, it was a life-changing event. I think that that's a pretty big fact right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, wherever it goes, the Phoenix Lights, I still think, is one of the most important sightings ever. And I would really love to see more focus on that. I mean, the work that Dr. Lynn Katai is doing in Phoenix regarding this, and still trying to drum up sources, still trying to drum up news and camera footage and everything. She hasn't let this go in 26 years. And good for her on that. And she's been dogged on it. And, many people will say that, it's gone from her being a researcher to almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at this time. But I don't believe that. I think her heart is in good order, and people should check out her work regarding the Phoenix Lights, because there is more to this. If it wasn't UFOs, all the military bases around the Phoenix area would not been put on high alert. And that is something that you need to check on as well. All those Army bases, the Air Force bases around Phoenix were all on high alert. And I apologize to those in the military if that is not the correct terminology. Canadian guy here, never served. Okay, so forgive me on that. But I mean, I just find it interesting, man. And I wish that case got more attention, because it deserves it.
Yeah, and just to quickly point out, Tom King still has his cameras pointed to the sky, and he's capturing stuff there. It's a hot spot. Phoenix is definitely a hot spot.
We need another one or two. It would be great to have that happen again in different cities around North America, especially. When we come back on Spaced Out Radio and the UFO Report with Tim Senor, we're going to get into transparency after Rich Hoffman talked about it on Spaced Out Radio just last week. We'll play you the clip. Spaced Out Radio is next. Final half hour. Let me just line this up, Timmy, because I forgot to earlier.
Well, I know you had jalapenos for lunch today, or dinner perhaps. So let's continue that spiciness into the next segment. I'm pretty excited to get into this.
It was a spicy chicken burger from A&W.
Lovely.
I'm not going to lie. It was good. You know what? You know what I've become really addicted to, and I blame my buddy Mark for this, is he has like up here they have a sunflower seed company called Spitz.
Oh,
I don't know if they have them down.
We've got them.
Okay. Long story short, okay, is they have this flavor called cracked pepper, and you put them in your mouth, and they just give you that right, just perfect burn.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just that burn that just makes you feel, oh, that hurts, but that just that hurts so good, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's great. You're addicted to Spitz. I love it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the season are good. Dill pickle are really good. The dill pickle ones are really good.
That's a very Canadian thing to say.
I know.
Do you like Canada? Is that okay?
No.
No mispronunciation.
No, we don't like that.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I love Canada. I've been all over, and it's so beautiful. I got to tell you, it's so clean and wonderful. Coming from the U.S. cities, and then you go to like Toronto, and it's clean. It's a mind blower. Just a different experience up there in Canada, and cold. It'll be a sunny day. Here's another thing in the cities of Canada. It'll be a sunny day, and you're in the sun, and you've got a coat on, and you get hot. And then you walk around the side of the building into the shadow, and you're freezing. You got to put your coat back on. That's another very Toronto thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Is Toronto really Canada, though?
Well,
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's
Yes.
Leaf fans there, and you know, I mean, they still celebrate the 1992 and 1993 World Series by the Blue Jays like it happened yesterday.
Yeah, I don't associate Canada directly to sports. I associate it to the people and the cities and the places. I love Niagara Falls, for example. I had such a great childhood growing up there. I would sneak across the border, at 16, and I'd be able to buy a case of beer.
Hey, me, Woykin, how do you know about Prince George? Oh, you go to Prince George and you have this odor from all the mills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brendan Squirrel, how you doing? Hey, I want to remind everybody with the dates coming very, very soon, April 1st. We'd like to get all of our VIPs wrapped up for Vegas. We got a bunch of people who've inquired, okay, and we want to see you all there, but we got to get those tickets confirmed because we got to get the T-shirts for the swag bags made. So if you could reply to info@spacedoutradio.com, info@spacedoutradio.com. If you haven't got an email from us, please check your junk mail because Kat has sent out a couple of emails to you guys. We're still waiting on a bunch of people, and we got to make sure that we get it all figured out because we don't want to miss anybody with the swag bags, and we just got to know how many we need to get. So if you could get that in, if you've signed up either on our Facebook page, event page, or you've emailed into Kat at info@spacedoutradio.com, we'd greatly appreciate you getting back and getting things cleaned up here very, very soon. I would really appreciate that because, like I said, right now, if I were to do the count, we probably got like 80, 90 people saying they're coming. But if you include the list of people who've returned, we've only got about 25. So that's a big difference there, guys. Big difference. And we want to make sure that everybody gets there. Everybody has a good time. And so if you could help us out, we'd greatly appreciate it. And yeah, we'll get to that soon. Thank you tonight to our super chatters: W. Decker, Sugar Britches, Monica, Cat Chaser, Deb, Donnie Cho ×2. Thank you, sweets. Derek and Kira for the amazing super chats. Greatly appreciate it. And we got about 10 seconds before we're going to launch here, the final half hour. And we go from there. So we'll talk to you here in a second. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, do us a favor, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with the UFO report here on the mighty SOR. Tim Senor is our man for it. We call him the Tim bit around here. Now, Tim, just last week we had Mr. Rich Hoffman on. He's part of the SCU. He is part of working down on government rockets and contracts with the Army and everything. He has been studying UFOs for 54 years. And the gentleman is a brilliant man. I think let's give him all due respect and courtesy for that. But when we had him on the show, he seemed to get a little testy about the idea of transparency when it comes to UFOs. Before we play this clip, what's your thoughts?
I'm going to try and explain both sides here because I'm a little on the fence when it comes to this as a general topic, because I agree that science needs to be blind. They don't need to know their sources. They don't need to know how they're getting that information. They just need that raw data. And it can be probably frustratingly tedious to go through all of the BS that you have to go through and all the red tape in order to get to that data. So things that can simplify that for them, such as Enigma or such as any group that comes forward with data, is going to be attractive, right? But there's a lot of missing pieces when it comes to just accepting everything. You can't just accept everything. And so that's when I start flipping to the other side, and I'm like, well, a lot of things have to happen before you make some decisions on who you're going to work with. So I'm right down the middle right now, and I'm going to discuss both sides and why I'm right down the middle.
You want me to play the clip? Let's play the
Please.
clip.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it here. And I understand that, and I can appreciate that. But are the politicians listening? We know the military isn't. They want to shut this subject down as soon as possible, so that way they don't have to deal with it. Yet on the flip side, we see a group like Enigma Labs who comes out of nowhere, and they're being invited to meetings and private conferences by NASA and Aero. I mean, this doesn't make sense to me. It seems like a game is being played.
No, to me, it's a situation where most of the groups have the same problem, and there's a big problem with data. And I've already mentioned that to you earlier in the conversation, that data is a problem. And I work in the IT world with the Army, and it's a problem for them in the same context. So data is basically a bunch of ones and zeros. Like, what do the ones and zeros mean? That's information. When you put it in context, that's information. When you take it from an information level, the next level is going to be that you're getting knowledge from that data. So unless I can take the data and bring it together and synthesize it from multiple pieces of equipment, by the way, if I can get those things to work cooperatively, make sure that they're all timed so that I get this one synced with this one, and I get them, they're completely collaborated, I might be able to then say, well, this caused this effect to this device, that it didn't do to that device. And so you've got that kind of thing going on as well. But, data storage and data putting it into a storage kind of capability is a real critical problem. Do we have petabyte storage capabilities to be able to collect all the wonderful data that everybody's giving? No. A lot of other organizations, how do we get the data passed over to us to be able to do, and how do we take the data and then have scientists be able to look at the data that are qualified to look at the data and then go deal with that data? So their data is a huge problem. It's always been a problem with the whole subject of UFOs and getting a database, because there's many different data. Everybody's got their own little database. They're not coming together, and they're not allowing us to share and go to one source to be able to get all of the relevant data that we need about the time, the duration of the sighting, the location, GPS, coordinates, and everything else that we need to be able to have in order to be able to put together some sort of a study. And Enigma is attempting to try to tackle that. And fortunately, Enigma is getting funded to be able to go and tackle that big ugly beast of putting all the data in one repository, allowing you then to add in machine learning and artificial intelligence that can help you to solve this phenomenon. So I personally applaud Enigma for what they're doing, and I'm glad somebody's getting it, because guess what? Even Ryan Graves' group, our group, everybody else, we don't have the money and the capability of putting together that kind of like tool to be able to help us to do that.
The problem with Enigma, though, from a publicity standpoint, is they aren't announcing who their members are. Everything seems top secret on their website.
Everybody expects that has to be transparent. Everybody thinks that it has to be open and transparent. Donors have to be open and transparent. Every aspect has to be publicly viewed. I disagree with that.
Well, we'll agree to disagree on that, because if you want the public's trust,
Yeah.
at least tell us who you're
I
investigating.
don't want the public's trust. I want scientists to be able to go to a single source to get good information. And that's not the general public per se.
Tim, I'm going to pause it right there.
Yeah.
I think that was a very, very important part. And I'm going to roll the rest of it here momentarily. But I think that was a very important part of what he said. He's not interested in the public perspective. That, to me, is the science part of it. I'm not letting him off the hook here. Okay? That's the science part, because there's too many voices going on that they have. What he's saying is they have to concentrate on what the data shows. I get that. But you just can't cut off a bunch of people who have given you their stories for free, their information, their knowledge, their downloads, their evidence from maybe scars on their body to grass burns on their property. Okay? You just can't cut off people because you're going to lump them all in one area. And he's going to lump them all in one area here coming up. But first, I want to get your thoughts on that comment.
So very much so what we're hearing is a scientific perspective where how we get this data isn't important. Only this data is important, right? And he's expressing the fact that he, as the scientist, has as his number one problem data, sourcing data and maintaining data management. So this guy's mind is not on the source. He's not thinking about the witness at this point. He's thinking about what can he derive from all of the information that he gets. Can he get a lot of it? And can he get enough to corroborate something and find trends and patterns? And now we know that there was AI being used to assign a 1 through 10 to a lot of the cases that are out there. And so he's all about this and kind of, let's just say, formatting everything that they can into something that they can use, because there's so much information out there. Now, I understand the big picture. What I start having a problem with is the transparency part, because I'm a complete supporter of everything that he's saying in the science and how to get information on UAP, not UFO, on this, because I don't think that he's talking about UFO really. But anyways, that's another story. But my point is that we need to separate him out. And it's not fair to just kind of like single him out. I know he came forward in his true heart to give us this expression that I think is more the perspective of a scientist. And I feel he's being completely honest. Now, again, let me venture a little bit back into my perspective that we need the transparency, and the fact that perhaps he's supporting something that doesn't support transparency, such as Enigma, shows a little bit of short-sightedness, perhaps, because the transparency is the part that's going to keep this thing afloat, that will keep those components that's so important, the witness information, coming in, because no one's going to put a report on file to something that they'll never see again, that is very mysterious on who is funding, and that is also mysterious on what they're doing with the data.
All right, well, let's talk about transparency here. Here it comes.
Those are scientists to study the phenomena. Okay, I don't necessarily need to have everybody out there that's not qualified in science to go out and to have field days with data that they don't even understand and can't even talk about.
I understand that, and I can appreciate that.
Yes.
However, if you're asking for my personal information or me to donate my personal information, I want to know who it's dealing with. That's the public perception.
Scientists.
Who?
Scientists like SCU, scientists like the AIAA, scientists like the Galileo Project, scientists who want to be able to study the phenomena should be able to go to a single source to get that. And there's nobody out there in the entire world that's tackling that in that way.
I'm going to stop it right there, Tim.
Please do.
Because you list all of those groups that he lists right there that are going to be using the Enigma Labs for their research as a one-stop shop. What that tells me is they're all tied together. They are all coming under one umbrella, and independent research is going to suffer.
Right. And we know that even in just the past week, SCU has announced that they're collaborating with more and more agencies, such as, we know that they're working with Galileo in some aspects. That's not new. But we also now know that they're working with the UFO Historical Research Center and Project Hestelin. And obviously, they're still working in some capacity with UAPX. And so we can only assume that this is the kind of collaboration that they hope to continue. And what they hope to get out of that is probably more along the lines of what you and I are discussing, which is having control over the information and not really being very transparent with any of what they're coming out with. And even as recent as today, announcing their accepting of 3 papers through the AIAA. So SCU announced that they have 3 papers that they're going to be submitting to the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. And so the 3 papers, by the way, and this is a whole nother topic, really, the 3 papers that they're submitting are, one is on, let's see, the Unmanned Aircraft Systems Sighting Reports, a preliminary survey, nothing to do with UFOs, aerodynamic interactions and turbulence mitigation by unidentified aerospace undersea phenomenon. Again, not directly about UFOs. And the third paper is the system study of constraints for creation of UAP electromagnetic signature optimal detection systems. Okay, and I think this speaks pretty loudly as to what they're doing, why they're collaborating in such ways, and really, this is not about UFOs at all.
This is all about business.
Excuse me?
It's all about business and money.
And it's about seeking out balloons and things that are, potentially man-made.
Well, let's continue on here.
Please.
Okay, because we're going to get to a little bit more because he starts to get heated here.
And so I come back to the fact that I'm glad somebody is being willing to do that. In the meantime, you've got the UFO community out there, the community of religions, all wanting to poke the fingers and stop something that has actually been attempted, we need to have to happen. And so that's where I'm at. I'm looking to be able to solve the phenomena in my lifetime, and I can't do it when I've got finger pointing going on and people knocking each other down in their own respective. We need to be respectful, and we need
I agree.
We need to encourage that kind of thing to happen, regardless.
I understand that, and I appreciate that. But there are many out there, myself included, who would like some transparency.
I understand that. Do you get the transparency from your government?
The Canadian government, I am so far.
No, yeah. There's things that the Canadian government's not telling you either. We're working with the Canadian government to help.
I know you are,
by the way. So
I know that. Time out a second. Who do you think started it?
I don't know. I really don't care.
There we go. Yeah. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about who's starting things. He doesn't care about the UFO public. And you know what? I'm going to defend him a little bit here. Okay, I'm going to go off my rails a little bit, defend him a little bit here, because ufology has gotten so crazy over the last couple of years that it is anarchic. It is, as I like to call UFO Twitter, is a cesspool of drama that really doesn't help the topic. And I can understand where Rich Hoffman, who was just speaking on that tape, says we don't need that. We don't need that. But you can't lump somebody who has a podcast or a YouTube channel, okay, who is acting all big and tough because they have a microphone. You can't lump them in with the drama queens and drama kings of UFO Twitter with people like Grant Cameron or Richard Dolan or the late Stanton Friedman, Peter Robbins, okay, and many, many others, Melinda Leslie and Lorian Fenton, and all of these great ufologists that have been doing this for 25 to 50 years. You can't come out and say, well, I'm a scientist, so I'm better than you. These people have worked their tails off to try and get this story out there. Okay, as far-fetched as some of those stories may come out, I will go to war for Grant Cameron at any time. Anytime I will go to war for him. Not only because he's a fellow Canadian, but the fact is he has investigated 100 times more than what any of these guys have. They're worried about the screws and the bolts and the G-forces and the propulsion. Grant's talked to people who've actually flown the ship, got the binary downloads, the missing time and the messages that come with that. You're telling me that's not important as a part of the research? And by the way, Rich, if you don't have a craft that's down, how are you going to build it? How are you going to figure it out? And as far as the transparency goes, so we got 3 minutes, so I'm going to hurry up here, Tim. As far as the transparency goes, how do I know Enigma Labs isn't one of those prank phone calls that I get from India or Pakistan asking for my tax revenue, or that my Google account is overdrawn, or my Amazon card is overdrawn? I want to know who's taking my information. Shouldn't be a secret. I contact MUFON, even though MUFON's now in bed with all this crap. I contact MUFON. I have a name, a phone number, a group, and everything of who I can talk to. None of that with Enigma. They don't care. You got 2 minutes. I'll give you the torch.
Well, I really feel that Rich showed his hand with you, and maybe not intentionally, but it was very revealing that it feels, and in fact, when you saw my question there in front of him about even whether the government had been approaching them, asking them to review information, You can imagine that he and that group is under tremendous pressure right now. And the fact of the matter is he's probably looking for resources that are untainted, perhaps, and information that hasn't already been torn apart, because he's wanting, and this is the other thing why he's not up for transparency, and this is not a good thing, that it would seem like they want access to something that nobody else has so they can glean their own results that can't be scrutinized by skeptics. Now, I feel like that is what he's talking about when he's talking about his frustration with the with maybe the element that's out there that created that frustration that you saw there. I can understand that you've done a lot of work to create a paper. The last thing you need is a skeptic to just come through and tear your work apart with haphazard math. I can understand that completely. So I'm not going to go too deep, knowing that we do have very little time left, but I would love to just say that I don't think that limiting access is quite the answer. I do feel that everyone needs to have access to the same information so we can see your work. That's the biggest part of this topic, is that we have to show our work. Otherwise, no one's going to believe anything.
No, very true. And we need people who can trust it. But you can't have the attitude of, I'm a scientist. We're all scientists. Leave this to us. We're the big boys and girls on campus. Get the hell out of here. What about Cheryl Costa and her wife, Linda? Okay. And the amazing job they have done in breaking down the statistics of UFOs over the last 50 years, state by state. Are you telling me that journalism work and their statistics and their numbers that they've run isn't going to help them? Right? That's quality ufology right there. Quality ufology. And that's just one of dozens of people who have given their life to this subject, who are being rejected by the educational and the scientific community. Meanwhile, that scientific community is all tied into the United States government, which is all tied into the military, which means it's all tied in to shutting disclosure down. Tim, great UFO report. We'll continue with overtime in a minute. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. Woohoo! All right.
Texas making me want to go out and hunt Bigfoot now.
What's that?
Texas making me want to hunt Bigfoot. I'm curious.
It's fun being in the forest, man. It is completely fun.
I camp a lot out here. I'm out in the woods a lot, honestly. I've never even, it's not been on my radar. I'm looking up, Never seen or heard anything out here in Oregon, but I'm open to it.
Thank you, Jose. Good to see you. Who else jumped in here late here? Dutch Hank, good to see you. You're Dutch. And Thomas Rock, Pete Person, good to have you both here. Pete Leibel, I did see you earlier. I think we're caught up. Now, if you guys in our chat room right now, while we're doing this little bit of overtime, if you guys have any questions for Tim and I on this subject and about transparency and what you heard that last half hour, ask away, because we feel, Tim and I feel that this is a very important subject, that unfortunately, due to the way UFO Twitter is and the way many people are in this field, where a lot of people wear horse blinders, because they've already drawn their lines in the sand, they're not going to see this. They're going to think that this is all good, that the government claiming the scientists and claiming the politicians and claiming the military, well, the military claiming them all, is healthy for ufology. And this is what's going to get us disclosure. In the meantime, what we're hearing, at least what I took out of it, and I know others have, Thomas Fessler played that clip tonight, and I went on with Thomas. Rich Giordano played that same clip tonight. I mean, there's a lot of people in ufology, Tim, who are concerned that we are being forced out of our own research, which has always been citizen research.
Yeah. And I think also we're tired of getting burned by collaborations that make us look bad, right? We're all excited about something, and then we see like something horrible come up in the news, and we're like, oh crap, we have to start back at straw one. And that just sucks. And I'm always like, how do you know who to collaborate with? What information out there is real? And like, even historically, it must be tough if you're approached by someone that has knowledge or something that can help your program. It's got to be tough to like sit back and be like, I work alone. Like, unless you're part of this group, I can't work with. There's just like so many moving parts there. It's tricky.
Well, and I'll be honest with you. Let's be honest with our listeners here. You and I had a serious conversation about this today, because I've been wondering for 3 days now whether or not it's actually even worth it in bringing on a lot of these government scientists to talk to our audience on this show. If that's what we are, is just a doormat, for lack of a better term, of people who don't understand, don't understand the arrogance of science.
Right. And this is where I came in, and I was like, no, you need to keep doing this, working with scientists, trying to get their eyes open the same way you successfully did it between the United States and Canada. You're very good at this, and your show is a great platform, and it's a very relaxing place where a scientist can potentially come to terms with some of the woo of this, right? Because that they're in this field studying it because they're interested in UFOs ultimately, I think. Because Rich Hoffman, if you'd got him talking about UFOs, could have spun you some tales that would make your hair curl. But the fact is that he's deeply into the science right now, and he's into the science of UAP, which is a totally different topic, right?
Have you bought into that now?
Say that again?
Have you bought into that now? Because you're a UAP guy.
So I have my feet in both worlds, because I got lucky once and I photographed what I think is actual UFO. It demonstrated everything that I think UFO actually does demonstrate. But have I been able to recapture that? No. Have I seen it again? Maybe. But it's so fleeting. And, I want to be honest with my data now that I have real tools to prove it with. I'd love to prove UFO. I'm not interested in UAP. I only deal with UAP because I have to weed it out. All my associates that are UAP associates are there to weed out UAP because I'm not interested in our tech. I would never go to Area 51 expecting to see UFO. I would never go there, period, because I don't want to film our secret tech. That's un-American in my personal belief that for me to put our secret tech on the web would be un-American. But that is just me. I'm only interested in UFOs, so that's why I have so little data out there, because I'm still looking for something that I can be like, I think this is actually UFO. Other than my family's sighting, I don't really have anything. I do have an orb that I'm pretty sure is an actual orb, but I don't know what orbs are. Right. So I think that you have to be honest with your data and your search, but you have to have your feet in both worlds in order to determine what you're seeing wherever you are. I'm always looking, and I have to be able to weed out what's UAP, potentially man-made, and then what's UFO. And the reason I know it's probably UFO is because it's damn hard to capture on film. It doesn't act like anything else. And it's beyond the 5 observables. I think that really there's a much more to that. I don't think that we've really scratched on some of the capabilities of some of the things I've seen.
I want to get to a couple comments here.
Please.
This one from Coley. And hi Coley, how you doing, buddy? I hope to see you in Vegas for our Vegas event, because I know you were planning on coming. So make sure you got your tickets all lined up, hon. And she says government has an explanation for their construct. Experiencers hold the truths. I think that comment is not too far off the truth.
I think it's right on it.
Okay?
Yeah.
I think then and I'll agree with her on this. Okay. There are many experiencers out there, and I am not one of them, but there are many experiencers out there who have had amazing interactions and recall from downloads, from binary codes to almost anything that we need that could really help maybe science put some of those puzzle pieces together. But they're not wanting to do that. They're not wanting that. They want nuts and bolts. Right?
Right. Well, nuts and bolts is a totally different game, as we've been and you've been teaching me. The consciousness aspect, that's definitely where it lingers. And that's the part of this that you're never going to get Congress to understand. So they're going the UAP route right now. And for them, go ahead.
Nicole has another good comment here. She says, highlights the fact that the only time they care about the community is when they need attention or money. Otherwise, their agenda or idea of disclosure is vastly different than the community. That is a perfect answer. Perfect answer.
Yeah. Yeah. If it doesn't behoove them in any way, if it doesn't move their narrative forward, not interested. And that's the short-sightedness, I think, that we're seeing. But at the same rate, let's just back it up, because we have to consider the fact that these guys literally are lumped with so much information. Their biggest concern isn't a witness event. Like, I know that sounds weird, but even a guy that's studying UFOs like that, who's got the science end, he's not even interested in your personal event because he's got 1,000 of them, right? And so I don't think that they can fathom it. I think it's the woo side is too hard for them to even get into at this point, even if they believe in it. It's got to be frustrating.
They can't even agree that if it's not from here, it's from there. If it's not human, it's alien. They can't even agree on that. That's why we got this stupid UAP garbage. Right?
Yeah.
And go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say, and they may look like us, if it's time travel or some kind of parallel, they may or may not, and adaptation could explain a lot of it, right? If it is something else. But anyways, please continue.
Well, I mean, we're heading down a dangerous slope. And you know what? I think, and a lot of people may disagree, but Tim, I think we have been ahead of the curve on this, because a couple months ago, when we started changing disclosure to confirmation and changing UAP back to UFO, my call on the show, because I get to have an ego like that every now and
beautiful.
again.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we were ahead of the game. And we were also asking, where we're ahead of the game, which group has the people's backs? And we now know that there is not a single group out there that has the people's backs when it comes to this subject. They all want a piece of the government pie. We are now seeing the greediness of all of these groups in ufology, and they all want their own way. They want their burgers cooked the way they want. Okay, and they're not willing to share.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have to include MUFON in this because we know that their hand has been out as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's incredibly frustrating. And I think the fact is if you're seeing a group that is creating formalized papers that are not specific to the topic of UFO, but profess to be a UFO group, you know, kind of collating data in a way that may appear that they're prepping to be addressed by, you know, a government entity, then you could, you know, that's a red flag.
I don't need the government. As I said on Thomas's show, okay, every experiencer has had their own disclosure. Okay, the one question that every experiencer has is why me? Whether it's a positive experience or a negative experience. This experience ruined, I wouldn't say ruined, that's a harsh word, changed our lives. Some for the stranger, some for the better, and some for the not so good. But it changed our lives, each and every one of us in our own way. And now, as we seek answers and we are allegedly getting closer to the answers, we're being told, fuck off, pardon my language, and get the hell out of my way, get off my sidewalk. I'm walking here. I'm trying to find the answers. Don't bump into me. Don't ask me any questions until my research is done. There is nobody for the people here anymore. Nobody. And this is why I will say this. I do not want to see our listeners putting any of their reports to groups out there, Enigma or MUFON or anybody. Find a ufologist, find a UFO group on Facebook that you can trust. Take some time, then tell your story. Okay? Because otherwise, you go to Enigma or somebody along those lines, even MUFON, and all of these cash grab groups now, as it's ufology for dollars, and all they want is why do they want your story if your anecdotal evidence means nothing? You know what they want? They want your name. They want your phone number. They want your email address. They want your home address. They want the names of people who you had that experience with. They're going to ask you questions. What were you wearing? You know, what were you on any substances? What do you drive? How did you get there? Has that been a place you've been to often? Do you normally have ETs flying around your house? Okay. By the way, where are you located? Are you located near any military bases? They're going to ask you very personal questions that most people will give up before they even think, oh my God, I just can't believe I gave this no-name brand stranger who wears a bag over his face because we're not allowed to know his identity with Enigma. All right. And we're going to give him my personal information.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, again, I want to highlight that you did a really good job by getting him to just tell you his position so clearly. And the fact that they're using AI at Enigma to go in and collate all of the data is actually incredibly telling. It's very robotic. It assigns a 1 through 10 number to each aspect of your sighting, how close it was, how clear it was, the weather. I mean, everything is taken up by this AI, and then it'll get collated into percentages of types and things like that, all through the AI. And that is what they're hoping for. So actually what they're really hoping for are the numbers. They're hoping to hit massive numbers of cases so that they can use this AI to go through and collate the data to make it easier for scientists that are interested to go in and say, hey, 10% of these were this description and they happened at this time of day at this elevation and things like that. So it makes sense on paper why it's done. And I'm not even against this sort of thing being done, Dave, but the point is that they need to be transparent with what they're doing with that information, right? If they're doing that, that's great. I want the same access that those scientists have, right? Especially if I've given my case. I want to track my case. It doesn't seem like there's any case tracking there. So there's a lot of things that seem like the witness is being disregarded. They need to have more care for the witness, especially for me personally. MUFON was glorious because they contacted me. They cared, right? There was some kind of contact that was made to me directly to see if I was okay with everything. And they wanted to make sure that my information was clear. I don't see anything coming from Enigma along those lines. It doesn't seem personal in any way. It's just a reporting system. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. Right. I'm trying to be very neutral, but at the same rate, if you're looking for something back, perhaps like take Dave's advice and reach out to somebody personal that you know is in the topic or professional, right? I think that's the best way. And always video document it for yourself, and write things down. Make sure you take great notes on your sighting. And if you don't have photographs or video, immediately draw things while it's fresh in your mind. But you don't have to share it once you've done that. If you videotaped yourself and you've got that data, you don't have to share it until you're ready to. You shouldn't feel pressure. There's a lot of impact to that. So I think Dave's right that we need to be very wary where we're sharing our stuff and consider staying anonymous.
Absolutely. Why should we give up if they are going to shoot us or slap our hands saying we're not ready to know, we're not grown up to know, okay? Then I agree with what you're saying. Don't support them. But we have to also realize that if you watch the disgusting habits of what's going on UFO Twitter the last couple of weeks, especially, they are getting very, very political. I was looking at at some tweets today in research just to make sure I wasn't missing something. Okay. That there were some people on there saying that if you aren't part of the woke left, you have no business being in ufology. And there are others saying, well, the woke, there's no room for Christianity, or we got to bring Christianity. Look at Chris Bledsoe. The Republican way or the right way is the way to be looking at this. No, last I checked, there's not a single alien out there that's Republican or Democrat. They're not woke. They're not boomers. Okay, let's lose the friggin' terms. Okay, because it's getting stupid. It really is. That's why I try to keep this show as apolitical as possible, because I know we have Democrats in our chat room. I know we have Republicans in our chat room. But guess what brings us all together? UFOs. And when you start to try and play a conquer or divide on social media, like many of the podcasters and YouTubers are trying to right now, why do you think people like Rich Hoffman don't want anything to do with our community? They look at the cesspool called Twitter and they went, I don't want any of that. I don't want none of that.
Yeah. And they also see a few others of their collaborators go down in flames potentially because of things that they've done. I mean, there's multiple organizations that have tried to get off the ground and we haven't probably even publicly heard about them.
Okay, but let me throw something else at you, Tim.
Please.
Okay, and I'm not saying this as a whiner or a complainer. Okay, so don't take that. But there are a number of people we haven't had on this show who've never responded to us or have said, "Oh, you're on too late. I can't go on." But the next night you'll hear them on Coast to Coast. Okay, on the second shift of Coast to Coast, not the early shift, but the later shift that you go on at like 2 a.m. Okay, and they won't come on here for whatever reason. I don't really, we got a pretty good reputation out there amongst a lot of people. Okay, some don't like us. That's okay. You're never gonna be 100%.
It's the woo train.
but the point that I'm getting at, my friend, is this. Okay, this all started. A lot of this garbage started 5-6 years ago with the To the Stars Academy, when they were turning down, radio shows with podcasts that had tens of thousands of listeners. But they would go on a podcast that had 150 people, 200 subscribers, and they would go on that because of that person waving the TTSA flag. And they did that a number of times. Nicole Sasquatch, she was right with me when all this was going on, and we just pull our hair out. We're like, really? Hal Puthoff is giving quotes to this person, or Jim Semivan is going on this show, or Lou Elizondo is going on here, right? Or Chris Mellon's talking to this person. Where's the audience? If you want to get your message out, you don't go. And I'll give you a very good example of this. Love him or hate him. When Jeremy Corbell released the Bob Lazar movie, I wanted Bob Lazar on our show. And Jeremy said no to me. Okay? He said no. And I said, why not? I said, why would you put, and I asked him publicly this, I said, why would you put Bob Lazar on Secure Team 10, knowing that the creator puts a bunch of faked and hoaxed UFO videos on there? And he came down to it and he said, Dave, you don't have 2 million subscribers. And he was right. And you know what? As much as I could have given Bob Lazar a better interview, okay, Jeremy was right. If I had a documentary, I would put it on. I would want 2 million people to see it, or the potential. It was a good move, business move on his part. It really was. So counter that to TTSA, where they were going on all of these podcasts with 100, 200, 500 subscribers or listeners. Okay. Why? And all of those big names,
you know why,
made contacts.
You know why.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
Yeah.
know why. But they all made contacts, and all of those contacts happen to share a lot of the same political affiliation, the same thoughts and background, right? And that's the way it is. That's where it's burned up. That's why a lot of the people now are going in these private Facebook groups and getting into these private conversations in groups that may have 5 people or 40 people. But it's very tight-knit with where that information stays in that room. And that's where these people are having those conversations, because they're done with the Twitter crap. They are done with all the insulting and all of the garbage that goes along with that, Tim. They're done. And they don't want it anymore. They don't want to be a part of it, because they see the cesspool, and instead of finger pointing and say, I'm not talking to you, I'm not talking to you, they just lump us all together, okay, like we're bad cabbage, and throw us back into the recycling bin. That's all they're doing.
Yeah. And I also feel like there was pretty much an outline of the game plan. And it didn't matter necessarily where those breadcrumbs were dropped, but they needed to be dropped because they knew that they would hit the masses one way or another. It didn't matter if it was a small media source or a large one. Eventually, it would disseminate. And we know that that program was all about UAP, right? And it was designed to get that topic moved forward, get funding for programs and things like that. And we know that because hindsight is 2020. And so those players were not really talking about the same thing as we are now, which is UFO, right? And that's incredibly frustrating because at one point we thought that we were all talking about the same thing. And the fact of the matter is we weren't all talking about the same thing. That's why if you asked direct questions to some of those people in the know, you would never get a direct answer because it really wasn't in their purview. And if they did know, it was an NDA situation. So
I just got a quick comment for
Sure.
Jonathan Davies out there. Are you drinking this morning? I just read your comment. Are you on the schnapps in your morning tea this morning? You are not a UAP guy. You have never been a UAP guy. You are a UFO guy. You've never been a
Who are you asking that to?
Jonathan Davies.
Oh. Yeah.
Absolutely. John brings up a good point. By the way, thank you, NeuroStream, for that awesome super chat. Goes along with Kira, Derek, Donnie times 2, W. Decker, Sugar Britches, Monica, Cat, and Deb. Thank you so much. Hold on. We're going to put the comment out. I've given up on UFOs. Too much baggage and X-Files stigma. UAP moves us forward, and the term enables other areas of the phenomenon to be tied to the topic, and lets others join the conversation. I understand that, but you're still a UFO guy. Put the schnapps down. Put the schnapps down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's frustrating that those terms have been, attempted to be blended. I feel like we need to keep that, those distinguishing terms separate, because the fact of the matter is that UAP is potentially explainable, but UFO isn't by its definition explainable. So I just wanted to kind of always have that, at least in my mind, I keep it that way, because otherwise I get blurred with things that I'm literally seeing in the sky and the data that I'm supposed to find important and what's not. So to me, someone that's not interested in anything technological of ours, I'm cool with distinguishing that as UAP. Now, I know UFO sometimes gets called that, and they're picking up UFO when they're looking for UAP, but I have to distinguish it so I can have this kind of conversation with you, right? There's no other way, because the way we have it distinguished is that UFO is something we don't know what it is, and it's probably not mundane. And we have to keep that 5% alive, right? Because the other 95% is potentially mundane and unexplainable, whether it's an orb floating, or not. And I understand you can call an orb a UFO, but let's be clear, it's not a silver disc with potential inhabitants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. And I love Jonathan tremendously, and I know he knows far more than I could ever hope to on this topic, but just for me as somebody that goes out and looks for it all the time, I have to have that clarity in my head about what I'm looking for. And yeah, transmedium, that doesn't help either, right? Especially because I have filmed things coming out of the water, and I was still in the UAP box because it was just an orb. It was just a ball, right? And it didn't do anything except go straight out. So what do you make of that? That's in the UAP box. Now, if that was a disc and it stopped and shot off, now we can talk about UFOs and stuff like that. I wish Jonathan was on here right now. It'd be great to have a little conversation with him. But he split Dave. Great. Oh, great. Hate it when he does this. Bringing up chat. If you guys have anything direct that you'd like to ask me about, Dave has gone somewhere. But Yeah, Nicole, I've been trying to put the question in front of Richard Hoffman about the paper that they wrote on orbs because I found it really interesting. But unfortunately, he didn't get into it. We didn't have time. But yeah, if you search their website, they've got a great paper on there. And a lot of the work that they had done at SCU had proven that a lot of these orbs potentially are Earth made. Even the multicolored ones, the ones that change color, it would be different gases burning and stuff like that. So, I mean, I filmed something that just kind of floated like a bubble at the treetops, kind of an orange bubble. And if you go to Anonymous Rex, my YouTube channel, I actually have that video there. You guys can check it out. It's really quick. And it was during a rainstorm too, and that kind of rules out drones. It was in the evening. And it was also so weird. I had just randomly gone outside and I looked between two buildings, and there it was between two buildings. Like there was no reason for me to look there, but I did see it, capture it during a rainstorm that I randomly decided to go out into. But interesting stuff. The one, like I said, it floated like a bubble. It didn't feel like it had any intelligence to it. If you had told me that was natural, I would believe you. But I am, again, very new to this topic. So, yeah. Sorry about the noise in the background there. No, I played soccer and I ski raced for my high school, Derek. But, yeah, upstate New York, from a little town called Pittsford in Rochester. All right, let's see if we got any more questions. Let's see. Right. Oh, and the fact is, I do think that we're going to see Arrow getting dumped pretty soon here, and you're going to see a new organization forming, that intermediary group that's directly reporting to Joe Biden. That's going to get dissolved after he gets that initial report. Jonathan Davies can probably talk deeper on that stuff, but that's just what I'm inferring from what I've seen in the past and what we're seeing happening right now. Arrow will quickly become called something else as soon as there's new funding, right? And so Jonathan's saying, if they have classified the UAP topic higher than the A-bomb, why do people think that they will just tell us about it? This is down to public-private to make breakthroughs like the Vasco project, which I'm not familiar with. Okay, but that makes sense. Yep. Yep, me Woiken. Yep, just keep going until they get it right. Refund, restart, write a paper. Once the paper's done, get funding again. They'll just keep refining it until we get bored and forget about the topic. Just wait it out.
Well, I think, in my opinion, this goes back to Lou Elizondo, and I'm not blaming Lou for this, so don't quote me on that. But it goes back to his article or his op-ed that he wrote, blog that he wrote about wanting to destroy ufology. Okay? If you dissect that to what is going on these days with the scientists, with Enigma Labs coming on board, with NASA jumping into it and lying to people, you are literally looking at the destruction of ufology right in front of us. And now that we see UAP or UFO Twitter starting to politicize this bipartisan topic, we are seeing some of the ugliest voices and faces and words that we've ever seen in ufology by this new crop of people who've become interested in this topic over the last few years. You never had this back, even when I got started 8.5 years ago. You never saw this hatred. You never saw this division. You never saw this, that this was a outside of Steve Bassett. You never saw this as a Democrat or a Republican thing. Okay. You never heard of people doxing people for the sake of wanting to disparage their reputation. This is a horrible, horrible turn of events that is making all of ufology look like a bunch of dumb schmucks.
Yeah. And I think personally that the arrival of UAP, the attention in the media, the new funding, all the groups, this new attention that you're talking about is a negative. And it's nothing to do with UFO and the fact that when you hear people trying to say that they're trying to bury the UFO topic, they literally are, that they want to get rid of the UFO topic by only talking about UAP. And that is incredibly frustrating for someone that discerns the two the way that we have. They're missing the topic. They're missing the consciousness part. They're missing the abductions, the abductees part. They're missing the whole, the whole reality of it. Because if you're just focused on what you can actually see, then you're going to get stuck looking at mundane things that are potentially probably explainable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And you look at a show like ours, I mean, thanks to Random Guy, and we first heard it a few years ago from Rick Doty. A show like ours, which isn't one of, we're bigger than mid-size. I would consider us, I don't think we're a top tier show. Okay, but I think we're a B plus. We're not in that A category like a Jimmy Church or a Clyde Lewis or a Coast to Coast. Okay, but we're a B plus, a high B plus, about to enter that A group. Okay, and when I see the way things have changed over the years and the way the information has gone out, and with what Random Guy has said, Rick Doty told us a couple of years ago, they're listening to us at the Pentagon or the alphabet agencies. They're listening to what we're saying. They're listening right now. Okay. We know, thanks to Random Guy, that there are members of NSA in our chat room and other groups in our chat room. And by the way, hello, everybody. Hi to all the alphabet agencies and agents out there. This is your nightly reminder that Tim and I will be in Las Vegas May 19th through 21st. So come on over and buy us a drink. We'd love it to be on your government tab. Right? But
beautiful.
The point that I'm getting at right now is we know that's happening. We know that these agencies are putting trolls within Twitter, are lighting up a lot of the social media aspect of this size to try and screw people up, to get that conflict going. Why? Because they don't want us talking about it. They don't want us talking about this subject. They want it back under the carpet. They want people like you, me, all of the other experiencers out there, Tim, to go back to being the tinfoil hat weirdos who don't have a dental plan, okay, who don't have an education. They want that. They want us back under the fringe carpet where we belong. They don't want this topic mainstream. Okay, they're hating it. Why do you think the Air Force has never come out? Right? They're hating the fact that this is going on. And the way they are totally blowing up ufology, now politicizing it even more between the woke and unwoke and Republican versus Democrat. And the fact that some people, I mean, I've seen people out there, and I'm not going to mention who the names are, but I've seen some people out there who have been torn to shreds because they ask pertinent questions. Okay. Now, there are some out there like Stephen Greenstreet and even the Black Vault sometimes who are on paths of destruction of what this topic is about. Okay. And I don't agree with that. I don't. But there are others out there who are trying to ask some tough questions, some hard questions, not aha gotcha questions, but pertinent questions to the subject, like we asked Rich Hoffman, and they are getting destroyed on social media. I'll be honest with you, I'm even afraid to tag hashtag UFO Twitter to any UFO topic that we do. Because do I need the guns pointed at my direction now for no reason? No, I don't.
That's unfortunate because freedom of speech is what this country is founded on. And if there's a platform like that, you should feel free to put out what you think and feel without retribution. Now, I know there's limitations. You're not trying to insult people. There's a limit to what we should be saying. But again, on a topic like this, I think it should be fair that you can say what you want without people that are supposedly like-minded and tearing you to shreds. But consider for a moment here how they stalled out Balloon Gate, how that was handled, and how we accepted the fact that we never got anything else on the other takedowns. We just were going to live with that. Consider the fact that anything that's attached to the quote unquote threat narrative that's come out of this topic attached to UAP should be a massive red flag as to their motivations. Funding, anything that's requiring funding should be a massive red flag as to their motivations, right? This is all just very simple because we've seen it in history. All we have to do is look at what they did historically, and we'll see it happening right again here, right in front of our face.
And
we've yet to talk about UFO, right? And this was what you and I had talked about earlier, that if this is a project by any one of these collaborations from any of these four-letter agencies or any of these groups we're seeing, where is the discussion of what do we do now? They're all proving that this is a reality, but no one's saying UFOs, aliens, what do we do next, right? If they were taking it seriously, that would be a discussion on the platform on every single one of these websites, that was what their focus was. Not the research of potentially mundane balloons and mundane Marfa lights and things that are explainable. Let's rule those out. That's great. But let's get to the fact that this is what they're really trying to discover. If it is, because if not, they're talking about threats in the air that are nothing to do with UFOs and aliens. So please distinguish those two. Don't group everything under UAP. I think that's a massive mistake. Let them be very clear about what their objective is. Don't disguise it with UAP any longer. We want to know what you think, right? And that's why this transparency thing is never going to happen, because they want to have that facade of the woo, Dave. They want that woo because they can ask for as much as they want. They never have to prove or show anything in the woo.
Absolutely, they don't. They don't. I mean, one of the biggest question marks I had right at the beginning of the TTSA, when they were coming out, they say, we know these aren't from Russia. We know these aren't from China. We know that these are from an unknown origin. Well, if they're from an unknown origin, they're alien. But we weren't allowed to say alien because we don't know. But we're able to confirm they're not of human technology. How does that work? How do we know that? And if they aren't from here, would that not classify them as alien? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole, and we got to wrap it up here in a couple seconds, but the whole aspect and idea of everything is this. Okay. Ufology is going through a great reset right now. And I hate to use that term because it's so stigmatized and popularized for everything. But ladies and gentlemen, I am of firm belief right now, and I can't be convinced otherwise right now, okay, at this moment, that the powers that be are doing their best to try and get rid of ufology. They really are. And what we are seeing is not disclosure. We are seeing confirmation of UAP. We are not seeing UFOs. This has nothing to do with UFOs.
Yeah. If you're
Okay?
talking about threats, you're not talking about UFOs.
Absolutely. And the other part that I would say is this. If you want real ufology, go back to the Grant Camerons, go back to the Richard Dolans, go back to the old timers who've been doing this for 20 to 50 years and really listen to what they've been saying, because they all called it. They all called it that the minute the government gets involved, this is screwed. And now with Enigma, with all of these other groups chasing UFO dollars, including MUFON, we as the public have no place to go for our information. We are now orphans, in my opinion, of the subject. And we're going to have to rely on ourselves to bring it out. My opinion. Your thoughts, Tim?
I just 100% agree with you. That was actually a great wrap up. If you wanted to call it, I think that really wrapped it perfectly, buddy.
That'd be a good short.
Yeah, that was very succinct.
Very succinct. We don't use that. I mean, I look at Nicole Sasquatch right now. She is dropping names like anything right now. The Costas, we mentioned them earlier. Kathleen Marden, Preston Dennett. Okay. Those are people that can be trusted. And there's a bunch of new people in there like Nicole and others. David Marler, another one. Katie Grabowski, another one. Okay. I would say anybody who is not on the board of MUFON, they're good people. For the most part, they're good people. They're like you and me. They have a keen interest in this subject.
Melinda
Right?
Leslie also should be on that list. She's
Leslie,
incredible. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And once again, I put it to our audience, and let me know in the comments below after this video, okay? After we're done, let me know. Is it worth Spaced Out Radio's time to be bringing in these government ufologists, whether it's, I mean, we know the names, whether they're members of like Avi Loeb or Gary Dolan or Jacques Vallée or all of these type of government type of scientists, Rich Hoffman, Robert Powell. Is it worth our time as a show to be bringing them on if their agenda is already set and they are not doing us as people of ufology any more favors? Let me know in the comments below, not in our chat room right now, but once we end the show here, because I'm very curious about this. Because what do we talk to them about if they're all going to be giving kind of the exact same speech? And that's a good place for us to end it right there. Tim, thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you.
And I want to say a big thank you tonight to W. Decker, Sugar Britches, Monica, Cat Chaser, Deb, Sweet Donnie Cho ×2, Derek, Kira, and Nero. Thank you so much for the love and support. It really helps us out on a nightly basis. Thank you to everybody. If you haven't already, give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. Leave us a comment. And once again, Tim, let's give our wave to all the agencies and agents who are out there. You know what? We love you. Give us a call sometime. We don't have to give you our numbers because you already have them. Okay. But give us a call sometime just to say hello. And of course, want to remind everybody, I will be in Las Vegas, or pardon me, in San Francisco later this week. On Thursday and Friday, Jessica Jones is going to cover me. And then on Monday, Marquise is going to cover me. So that way I'll be back. I'll host tomorrow night and Wednesday, and then I'll be back for next Tuesday night. And I want to remind everybody, if you are coming to our Vegas party, please reply to info@spacedoutradio.com info@spacedoutradio.com. We need to confirm and get your VIP tickets paid for, because we got to get our swag bags raring to go here for May. And we want to make sure that we have enough swag bags for absolutely everybody. So please get your tickets in. Please confirm with us that you are coming to our Vegas event. We've got about 90 people who say they're coming. We've only heard from about a third of you, and we really need to get this confirmed so that way we know how much. I don't want to sit there and buy 100 t-shirts if we're only giving away 50. So reel it on in, Tim. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you for a great night. We'll talk to you in a couple nights' time. Hopefully we'll have Random Guy back. He's a little tired and not feeling well tonight, but we'll get him back soon. Good night, everybody. Tomorrow night on the show, just to let you all know, Carl the Crusher, yeah, he's a big-time YouTuber, over 3 million subscribers. He's doing some great work in the Uinta Basin. We're going to learn all about that tomorrow night on the show. So stay tuned, and much love to each and every one of you. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.